Inside Foos presents FoosTalk Live.
Ventura Highway in the sunshine. I've turned into Mark Torres.
Are you doing the Mark Torres routine?
I'm doing Mark Torres.
Oh man,
Yeah.
he's not.
And also, Tom, Adam and I know how much you love the band America. And so, Adam, don't we always? We try to bring a little America to Tom.
You guys know how to hurt a guy. You really do.
It's FoosTalk Live.
You talking to me?
Compelling and lively banter.
Are you going to talk to us?
Talking foosball.
Foosball was how I measured my value as a man. You took that away.
Players and fans, promoters and pros. Unedited and raw.
Talk.
Living in the moment.
We have a lot of important things to talk about.
All while practicing social distancing.
Cool. We'll talk. No big whoop.
Let's get this thing started. FoosTalk Live. Coming to you live from the studios of Inside Foos, it's the 79th episode of FoosTalk Live, brought to you by InsideFoos.com, offering monthly subscriptions with access to some of the most exciting matches ever recorded, plus live tournaments, pre- and post-show analysis, interviews, and original programming. Sign up now at InsideFoos.com. Also brought to you by ProtectoFlex, the world's premier foosball safety accessory. Go to protecto-flex.com. Brought to you by Rod Lock. Practice more, reach less. The best practice tool in foosball. Visit rod-lock.com. Brought to you by 518 Prints, one of the best printers of promotional items and foosball apparel. Just visit 518prints.com today. Brought to you by Foosballers the Movie. This Joe Heston of Foosball documentary is now available as a worldwide download at foosballersthemovie.com. Also brought to you by the USTSO, helping to usher in a new competitive era of foosball. Become a member at usafoosball.com. And brought to you by Foosball Clubs USA, promoting foosball through school systems all over the United States. Make a donation today at foosballclubsusa.com. Hey there, it's Tom Robinson. Welcome once again to another live edition of FoosTalk Live. We're here to chat about foosball. And of course, when it comes to conversation about foosball, it's always best if you have someone else to share it with. And that would, of course, be the greatest play-by-play announcer of all time in the foosball sports. That would be Jim Stevens. Hello, Jim.
Hi, Tom. How are you? Is this show number 79? I don't know if you announced that, but I think that's what it is. Is it 79 shows? Yep. I was doing some math, which I occasionally do. And, 52 plus 26 is 78. And that would be a year and a half. So here we are. 1 week past a year and a half of FoosTalk Live, week in and week out, bringing you all the chat, the events, all the buzz from the foosball community. And congratulations to you, Tom Robinson, on what has been an outstanding year and a half of FoosTalk Live.
Well, thanks for saying so. I mean, it's a labor of love. Let's put it that way. But it is something that I just can't get enough of this stuff when it comes to foosball, playing foosball, talking foosball, just hanging out with people who love foosball. I think that's I can't think of a better way to spend a Sunday evening.
No, and for people who love the band America as well. Ventura Highway.
Oh, stop.
But here's the thing, Ventura Highway, right? Our good friend Adam Gilson, who usually would be here to co-host with us and was expecting it to be here tonight, lives in Ventura, California. Well, Adam went down to San Diego this weekend, which is, 100 miles, 120 miles down the coast. Okay. He took the train. Down there, and that train actually does go down the coast of Ventura. It goes through L.A., Actually, I'm not sure if he takes it from Ventura, but then it goes down the coast all the way to San Diego, right along the ocean for much of that.
Okay.
And Adam, unfortunately, is now having to take the train. He's on the train as we speak, heading back north. Apparently, his babysitter fell through. He has a young son. So Adam not able to make it tonight on the show, despite the fact that his good friend, Louis Cartwright, will hopefully be joining us tonight.
Yeah, right. No, I know. I'm looking forward to it because the first time we talked to Louis was way back, in episode 14.
Wow.
So it's been a couple of episodes, but he's great fun, great player, legendary player, I should say. Looking forward to hanging out with Louis tonight for sure. And I understand Mark might be lurking as he always does.
That's Mark. You never know with Mark, and even Clay Toomey might pop his head in, and we hope so for both of those guys. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
One of the things that COVID has taught us is to stay light on our feet, be ready to adjust, ready to adapt at any moment.
No question.
And that certainly has been the case so far this evening, as Tom and I certainly are tap dancing a little bit here tonight on FoosTalk.
Well, one of the things that when I mentioned, to Clay that we're going to be joined by Louis Cartwright tonight, he said, "Oh, great! That means Mark and Louis are going to have a pillow fight. That'll be great."
A pillow fight, food fight, yes. Yeah, for sure. And, Louis, the one thing about Louis, you mentioned what a great player he was, of course, a multiple world champion, a guy that tells it like it is. That's for sure. Always has. He's not going to mix words. He's going to tell you what he thinks. And these opinions that he are very highly educated opinions in the world of foosball. Certainly one of the smartest players, certainly we've ever seen. I was thinking, and this I think would be a good idea for us to do here coming up maybe in the next month or 2 or 3 or whatever, is for us to kind of put together, like they're doing in the NBA, right? It's the 75th anniversary of the NBA. They're putting together their all-time top 75 players, who are the 75 greatest players in the history of the NBA.
Really?
And I think that'd be kind of neat to do, don't you? To maybe put together our top 50 all-time players. And Louis Cartwright certainly would be on that list and probably in the upper half of it for sure. Well, because he was a great forward, great goalie, great singles player, just a great all-around player.
So let me ask you this question then.
Yeah.
So if you were to compile, let's say, your top 50 players in foosball of all time, wouldn't you just go to the Hall of Fame and kind of copy down the list?
Well, you would think that, wouldn't you? And certainly there's going to be some crossover and a great deal of it. Maybe it's the order that we'd have to worry about. And some of the players that we're going to be talking about that would be in that top 50 all time are not in the Hall of Fame yet.
Interesting.
And so you got to factor that in, certainly. And then it's just the order you place them in, I think. And guys like Adam and guys like Mark, and I know you haven't probably been around long enough to really be able to maybe contribute to that list, although your knowledge is growing leaps and bounds each and every day.
By osmosis.
But yeah, maybe so. But it would be kind of fun to kind of put that together and maybe even do a poll of players around the country, around the world.
Yeah.
To kind of see what they thought and see what their list would look like. I think the very top end of it, I think we have that pretty much nailed. But then once you get down to that 15, 20, 25, 35, right in that area, who makes the list and who doesn't? It would be kind of interesting.
Oh, I love it.
But Louis Cartwright, certainly a guy, in my opinion, certainly is going to be at least in that top 20, 25 for sure.
Okay.
That's how great of a player he was.
Yeah. So
looking forward to talking with Louis tonight. I think he's going to participate in our top 5 as well. The top 5 reasons I lost. How about that?
This is loaded because top 5 reasons I lost. Now you're talking about your own performance, or you're talking about somebody else's performance?
Yeah. Do you do that? No, I said that to my wife. I said, "What do you think?" She says, "Well, I lost because my partner didn't show up for the match." And then she reflected back to Colorado State a few years ago when her partner did not. They got forfeited out because her partner didn't show up for the match. So
wouldn't that make the top 5, right? So
yeah, sure. So that should be interesting. It should be fun. Hopefully, Louis can contribute to that. Otherwise, it's going to be Jim Stevens' top 5 reasons I lost.
Well, I think I can probably chime in. I've lost plenty, So I mean, at this stage of my career,
there
quote
you
unquote.
Go.
I've
always ready. We can always count on Tom Robinson to step in when needed. That's all right.
Not
awesome.
a problem.
So, I was also thinking back on last week's show.
Yes.
Where we talked with the great Ryan Moore, a man who had just tripled at the Tornado Championships. We're looking at Ryan Moore when we're putting together that top 50. He's in the top 10%.
He quadrupled at the
for sure.
The championships. Yeah.
I usually stop it at 3 just because we could go on. Frederick Collignon probably septupled at a couple of Tornado Championships if we're counting DYPs and goalie war and forward shootout and everything else.
Right.
But in the open events, the major open events, Ryan tripled, which has only happened with 2 other players in history.
Jeez.
And so we got a chance to talk about that. We got a chance to talk a lot of foosball with a guy that is such a good interview. And if you haven't heard it, folks, head over to foosballradio.com and download that episode. It was a good one.
Yeah. He's never fails to amaze me how his brain works. Not just because he's a great foosball player, but a business person and just an all-round good person. A generally good guy, and he just has a great sense of humor, and he looks at life in a very, I think, a very philosophical manner. How could you not when you got 2 great kids and a super wife?
Yeah.
And just at the top of his field right now.
For sure. And he talked about it last week. He came up, basically, the foosball taught him so much about life and even about business and how to approach those things.
Yep.
And, that's something I think that's a lesson for everyone. You have as I called it last week, your martial art, which is foosball for so many of us, that can teach us how to perform in clutch situations, how to organize our thoughts, how to prepare. And when it comes to other parts of life, certainly you can apply those methods and the things that you've learned from foosball. And he really, really expressed that so well on last week's show. No question about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We
Check it
also,
out.
Yep, he did. And we also talked about, what's upcoming, our top 5 things that are happening in this final quarter of the year, which reminds us that here in just a few days, down in New Orleans, Louisiana, at the Hilton New Orleans Airport, the Louisiana State Championships, which again is shaping up to be a big one. Inside Foos will be there remotely to cover it starting Friday. You can watch it at InsideFoos.com.
No,
and we'll have various commentators remotely covering that event, and that should be a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, so there's going to be definitely some commentary through InsideFoos.com, correct?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
we're going to have our crew down there just to set up cameras and send us a feed.
Terrific.
And then we've got Keith Glenn and Adam Gilson, and even I'll try to jump on there a little bit as well,
so
to bring action from Louisiana.
I'm curious to see, because it's been a pattern so far. So Texas State's, certainly the Bardo, and then of course World Championships. I'm wondering, because everybody was trying to predict, what kind of a turnout they were going to see, because everybody has pretty much set a record so far with competition. I wonder if that's going to be the same case in New Orleans.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see nationals also with more than 400, 450 players for that one.
Sure.
I would expect, these are basically national events. They're called state championships. They're really not. They are national events. They get a big national turnout from, there'll be, 15, 20 different states represented down there, I would imagine. And I would expect, I know in the past, maybe the turnout down there has been in maybe the 2.25 range, maybe 250 at times. I would expect they might push 300 and maybe even burst through that 300 threshold for the event next weekend. It'd be interesting to see what kind of turnout they get.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, fingers crossed for that, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And Mary Moore, of course, IFP will be hosting that one. And it's the 11th through the 15th, I believe. So that's actually, they have it starting Wednesday, probably a couple of small events on Wednesday, then Thursday, with Inside Foos going live on Friday through the weekend. And then in 2 weeks, Michael Stahl will be running his Michigan State Championships. And again, folks, if you want to check the schedule, go to foosball.com. The foosball.com schedule up to date. Ben Kennan keeps that thing rolling. You can see all the different events, Michigan State and the Northwest Open up in Portland, Oregon. Our good friend Brad Lorene promoting that event, both on that same weekend here in 2 weeks. And then I just saw today on the foosball.com schedule, November 4th through 7th, the Virginia State Championships. And this is a Bonzini event. Virginia, North Carolina, that part of the country, very Bonzini oriented when it comes to tables. And there's some very good players. Yep.
If I could go to that, I would. I would just be a blast just to go back and reminisce.
That's right. You're an old Bonzini player, aren't you?
Love that table, and everybody else like, what? Come on, Well,
I love it too.
Yeah,
I love it too. The 57 Chevy of foosball tables.
Right, exactly.
I love it. Yeah, and then let's not forget about 1 week later. And did you have some more thoughts on Bonzini?
No, I was just going to say, I just missed the ashtrays on the ends of the table.
Yeah. So back when you actually used them, probably back then, didn't
you?
November 11th through 14th, talking about big events. It's the Colorado State Championships, and this one will be a monster.
Right.
They're talking 500 or 600. I'm thinking 450, 500 is realistic for this event. It's going to be held in, as it has been since 2014, I believe, in Thornton, Colorado, just north of Denver. Tommy and Sherry and Tim do such a great job with that event, and looking forward to covering that one live. I'll be there for that.
Yes.
And of course, every year as well, we focus on the Hall of Fame, the Colorado State Hall of Fame, with some new members going in this year, and that should be a lot of fun.
Now,
so
if you're still thinking about that,
busy next 6 weeks or so.
If you're still thinking about going to Colorado State, I guess there's still opportunities to find rooms. Although I think they're becoming scarce now. Correct?
There are no rooms left in the main hotel, apparently, but there are several hotels within a couple of blocks of the DoubleTree there in Thornton that do have availability. So you may have to spread out a little bit and focus on the other hotels, because they have been actually sold out at the DoubleTree now for probably close to a month, if not more.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Intense. Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to what, I mean, that's quite a list of stuff. This is a flurry of activity all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Now that we're approaching the end of the year, and maybe this is hopefully a harbinger of good things to come for 2022. with any kind of
for
luck.
sure. For sure. In 2022, of course, as we talked about last week, a World Cup year. Hopefully all goes well health-wise worldwide, and that event can take place there in Nantes, France. And that really becomes the big focal point for the entire foosball world.
Yeah.
And that's going to be in July of next year. And that should make 2022 an outstanding foosball year. We
No
certainly
question.
hope so.
No question. Well, speaking about outstanding, I've got an outstanding thirst. What Jim and I like to do right about this time is to reveal our favorite IPA. We've got a nice, long, leisurely time here to enjoy an IPA because you and I are the only ones doing it. So,
Yeah, we're the only ones here. Hello.
What have you got?
I'm sticking to the state of Colorado, out of Fort Collins, out of Equinox, depending on how you want to say it, Equinox Brewing in Fort Collins. I'm having the Star Destroyer Imperial IPA.
Star Destroyer.
And I'm going to, off the top of my head, I'm going to describe it to you. After popping this aggressive-looking can boasting 110 IBUs, we expected a fight, but inside is a sexy, dark golden liquid. The high bitterness is offset with sweet caramels, resulting in a malty, toasty mouthfeel with a crisp finish. This one also brings the booze with an 8.6% ABV,
8.6.
but it tastes just right. Hold on, let me sip this thing. Oh my!
Ooh.
Oh boy, that's good.
Are you still
That's
conscious?
good. I do love my doubles and my Imperial IPAs. That's a good one.
That sounds great. I mean, Star Destroyer, man. I love the title. That's
Star Destroyer.
That's like a Star Wars. I guess you'd say a tribute to Han Solo or something. I don't know. But IPA in Star Wars. Who would have figured?
It's actually an Imperial IPA as well.
So there you go.
That sort of all fits in, doesn't it?
Love it. Star Destroyer.
What are you drinking?
Well, let's take a look here. In fact, I'm sticking to New York State, going to the grand metropolis of Elmsford, New York. This is the Captain Lawrence Brewing Company. They have something called Citra Dreams Hazy IPA.
And Citra hops.
Citra hops. And it says right on the can, double dry hopped with Citra hops. And so we shall pop the top. Oh man, that was quite a crisp pop there. Okay. Well, that's zesty. Tasty and zesty and all the resty. Wow. It's so funny how I think it was Adam or someone recently said, have you guys ever tasted something that you don't like?
Yeah.
If I keep this up, I don't know. I can't say that I've had anything, at least on the show, that I didn't like.
I mean, there have been varying degrees of good. We'll put it that way.
Yes. And an IPA is still an IPA. You really can't dispute that. But yeah, that is a hazy IPA right there. Dry, double dry hopped. What does that mean? Do you know?
Yeah, well, they just double dry those hops, before then fermenting it, and it creates a little bit of a maybe toastier sort of flavor.
Yeah, I would
maybe
say
that's where some of that zest, that hoppiness is coming from.
Well, we have to toast. I have an honor group of the week all set up here because I don't think we've talked about these guys before, although they are associated with somebody we've had as a guest on the show at one time. In fact, I'd like to raise a glass to the folks in our honor group of the week, Chicagoland Foosball.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and of course, Mark isn't here to raise the Chicagoland toast, but that's okay. He's busy.
Well, our good friend Don Shalafu, of course, a major part of the Chicago scene. So shout out to him. Lots of great players coming out of that region, and a strong program over the last few years for sure.
And Don, when he was on the show, man, he was a blast. He was one of our early guests, and he really brought
Uncle Donnie.
He was terrific, and we're hoping that Don is doing well along with the gang there at Chicagoland Foosball. Cheers to you guys.
Cheers to you guys. Yep.
Yes. 7%. So you got an 8.6% alcohol content?
8.6. Yeah, 8.6. That means you have one, maybe 1.5 of them. Two will put you to sleep.
Yeah, and hopefully with food, with any kind of luck. And you're just about to step into your dinner time, your time in Colorado. Of course, dinner for me was a couple hours ago. So
it's 20 minutes, almost 20 minutes after 7 here. And we do generally on Sundays, we do have an early dinner, knowing that I'm going to be on the show, et cetera. So, and then maybe I'll have a snack a little later on. Speaking of snacks, I think we got a pretty good flashback tonight.
Yes, we do.
With great moments in foosball history, this is a FoosTalk Live Flashback.
And Cartwright steals the ball away. And he comes back, striking it home with a left hook, and it's World Championship point for Louis Cartwright. Robert Morris has played tremendous foosball. Louis Cartwright has played impossible foosball.
Pressure's on Morris right now. He really wants to win pretty bad. Yeah, you can never count Morris out. He's a scrapper, a fighter.
Morris still in possession.
Go play your match. I'll take the 22, please.
4-1 in the fifth. And Louis Cartwright with the ball on the 3. A chance to win the World Championship. Cartwright from snake position fires it to the near side in one of the classic all-time World Singles Championships. A match played at an extremely high level. Truly a joy to watch. Louis Cartwright of Las Vegas, Nevada wins the title.
Just a phenomenal performance by Louis Cartwright right there.
Listen in next time for another great moment in foosball history. It's FoosTalk Live.
1995 with Louis Cartwright. What a
96. Yep, 1996.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, 1996. That's amazing. That's fantastic.
Yeah, 25 years ago. That's great. We'll talk to Louis about it. I think he's going to join us here in a minute.
Yeah.
But it was an amazing performance, an amazing match, huge crowd watching it, cheering on every ball. And Louis just played superb foosball. And it was not a surprise. I mean, Louis had been coming for several years, had some great finishes, some wins on tour, and to see him win that World Singles Championship. And remember, the 1990s were a decade where I think we had 9 different singles champions at the Tornado Worlds in a 10-year period.
No kidding.
I think only Tommy Atkinson won it twice, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's the only 2-time winner in that decade. Louis was one of those guys, and he was fantastic that weekend for sure.
Now, why was that? It was because there was just a deeper field of competitors?
Yeah. There was just so much depth. And of course, Fred came on late in the decade. He came on in 98, did not win the singles championship in 98, did win doubles at the Tornado Worlds in 98, lost to Terry Moore in the finals. In fact, Terry won two. Terry won 2 as well. So there were 2 guys winning 2 that decade. It was Terry and Tommy. But really over that 10-year period, 8 or 9 different players. And then Fred began a run of several in a row after that, beginning in 1999. Won in 99 and 2000, lost in 2001 to Horton, but had a run there for 3 and 4 years, and really cemented himself as the guy that could dominate on tour. But there really wasn't a dominant player. We can talk to Louis a little more about that as well. Now, hopefully Louis is also going to participate in our top 5 tonight. I
believe so. In fact, I think it's about time we bring Louis on, because I know he's been waiting for us in the wings here. So Louis, welcome to FoosTalk Live. Louis, can you hear us? Are you there?
Absolutely. Thanks for welcoming me back.
Oh, absolutely, man. It's great to have you back. We're just listening to that moment in 1996. What can you tell us about that moment? Do you remember anything about that?
Yeah, 2 things I remember the most is up to that point, or a tournament before that, I used to dominate Robert, and so I never had any worries. And I think I got cocky at the tournament that I played him before.
Oh.
And he got his confidence against me, and that's why that match was so close, because before that, I pretty much owned him.
No doubt. And you as a singles player, of course, notorious. You were a very tough competitor. And now, in those days, in the 90s, did you prefer playing as a singles player, or did you like doubles as well?
Oh, singles. I was always a better singles player.
Got it. Understood. That's a totally different game, by the way. One of which I have no idea how to play.
Hey, Louis, great to hear your voice, buddy. I know Adam wanted to be here so badly. Adam helped to, of course, get you on for this week. And of course, I know you and Adam are good friends, and he's on a train right now, believe it or not, going from San Diego back up to Ventura, and just couldn't be with us tonight, but he sends his best to you, for sure. You mentioned you preferred playing singles, although you had a tremendous amount of success in doubles as well. And a lot of that may be due to your singles proficiency, because in singles, you really kind of need to be a good goalie. You need to be a good forward. Obviously, you need to be a good singles player. But when you started to really have a tremendous amount of success with Trevor Park in particular, beginning in 2000, it was as a goalie / forward. How much did your versatility contribute to you guys having such success? You made it to the finals at the Tornadoes Worlds in 3 out of 4 years. How much did your singles game and your versatility contribute to that?
Well, I think it was a great deal, because to be a good singles player, you got to be able to adapt in all areas. And I think playing with Trevor, both of our abilities to adapt to help the other person out when we needed it the most is what made us so successful.
Yeah, that's awesome. And of course, if anybody knows about the whys and the whats of winning and losing foosball, it's Louis Cartwright. And tonight for our top five, this is one that Adam Gilson came. Adam loves to teach, right? Adam's a teacher, and so he came up with this one: the top 5 reasons that I lost, whether it's my match, a tournament, whatever. The top 5 reasons I've lost. And so we're going to break it down tonight. Hopefully, you're ready, Louis, with your top 5, and you can go first each round. But are you ready to go, Louis?
Yeah, I'm ready. I got to think about it on my drive home.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah, you put it together. Nice. Cool.
All right.
Well, here we go.
Here
is the top 5.
Time once again for the FoosTalk Live Top 5.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Here's Jim Stevens and Mark Torres. And the part of Mark Torres is being played by Louis Cartwright this evening. Louis, if you'd like, let's begin with our fifth, the 5th place, of course. What would you like to preface this with anything?
Well, if I could just throw this in, if I'm going to be representing Mark, I'd like to tell everybody about my amateur doubles victory.
But of course.
I'm just kidding.
No. So you winning amateur doubles would not surprise me at all back in 1990. Now, Mark, still, it remains to this day one of the most shocking things I've ever heard.
And we hear it again and again and again.
And again.
So,
all right, have at it, Louis.
All right, here we go.
So when this is over, I want to tell you more about myself. My name's Mark Torres. But my number 5 reason, because this is personally for me, is either being unpracticed or not enough practiced or unprepared.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. And for me, I'm going to kind of make this a process. If you're wondering why you lost that tournament, well, I can tell you, and Louis, I think you can testify to this as well. If you're going to win a tournament, especially out on tour, you've got to win you got to win those 4 games. All right, you're going to have them. They're going to come. Anybody who's ever won a major title, anybody who's in any division, had to win 4 games. And so hopefully, as I go down my list, I can help you do that with maybe a few extra little tips here, or at least some explanations as to why you might not have been able to win those 4 games or win matches or win tournaments. So mine, win those 4 games. That's my number 5.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number 4.
Just me again?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, number 4, I would say losing focus. Because players can be distracted, whether it's somebody in the crowd, they could be distracted from a phenomenal shot the opposing player did that you didn't expect, or they could just be a drop pass, anything like that. But losing focus, to some people, it affects their entire game.
Yeah, no, for sure. And a lot can happen. You lose focus, and before you know it, the other guy's scored a couple, and momentum has shifted, and eventually the match is over. So, no, that's a good one. For me, my number 4 is you lost because you didn't work hard enough defensively on every rod. Foosball is more than just scoring the ball. It is. It's more than just an offensive game. If you look back at the history of the sport, the people who win most of the time, with few exceptions, are guys that played good defense, 5-row defense against the 2-rod, had a good single zone or a good zone playing goalie or forward in doubles. But it's more than just scoring the ball. Defense is about anticipation. It's about deduction. It's about hustle, working hard. You need to identify your opponent's tendencies and tells, either through scouting them in previous matches or through just identifying it as early as possible in a match. But it is so important. I mean, the old phrase, the old cliche, defense wins ball games. It's true. And Louis, I know, being a great defensive player yourself, you understand how important it is not only to be able to score the ball, of course, but you got to be able to play defense. You got to stop the other guy. You got to dig on that 5-row. You don't want to, we've seen guys maybe like Billy Pappas or Ryan Moore. They just feel they can outscore guys, and most of the time they can. But there are 2 guys also who can play defense when they need to. But for me, the reason you lost is because you didn't work hard enough defensively, and that's in preparation, and that's in real-time execution as well. Working hard defensively on every rod will get you wins. If you lost, it's because you weren't working hard enough defensively. Number 4 for me.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number 3.
Well, Jim, you took my next one away. My next one was don't work hard enough. A lot of people are afraid to put in the effort, whether how it's going to look, how it's going to affect their game, or whatever it might be, afraid of success or failure. But that was my next one, and you touched on it perfectly.
Yeah, I love that. Being afraid of success or failure. You really can't worry about that stuff, can you? You just got to stay in the moment and work as hard as you can. So it's nice to know that we're thinking alike. For me, my number three is the reason you lost is you didn't have a game plan. For every match, every game. Having at least a starting point going into a match, understanding your opponent's strengths and weaknesses, understanding maybe how you want to start off. If you're a pull shooter, I'm going to hit him with an early straight. If I'm a snake shooter, yeah, I want to go down the middle early on to open up those corners. And you have this in mind. Do you stick to that game plan exactly? Not necessarily. You're going to have to adapt and adjust and get reads for what's going on. But you want to have a starting point. And we've talked about this before on FoosTalk Live. Having a game plan before every match, have the discipline to step aside, look at who you're playing, develop a game plan based on your knowledge of them. And that game plan will be not only what they do, but it's what you do in relation to them, in relation to that particular matchup. And a lot of times, even if you don't know your opponent, just come in and say, I'm going to start him off early on with a straight to set up my long, start him up with a middle off the snake shot to set up my corners. I'm going to work that wall early on the 5 before going to that lane. Just having a good starting point is always productive. If you didn't win, one of the reasons is because you didn't have a game plan. My number 3.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number 2.
Kind of in the same area. My number 2 would be couldn't win the chess match, or you just couldn't adapt as well. Like Mr. Adaption himself, Todd Lafredo, that's probably who I've seen adapt the most. But not being able to adjust your game, win the chess game, whichever way terminology you want to use, you got to be able to adapt in order to beat all the top players. If you can't adapt, you're never going to win.
Yeah, it's so true. And I know people who listen to the Inside Foods broadcast often hear me saying you got to adapt, and then you got to adapt to the adaptation that they're adapting. It's constantly, adapting. For me, my number 2 is you didn't prepare back home. The reason you lost is because you weren't doing those repetitions, the ball control, executing 10 wall passes, 10 lane passes, or whatever, brush up, brush down, the straights, the splits, the longs off of whatever particular style of shot you shoot. When you do that, when you do those repetitions, it's going to develop a higher execution percentage in those matches. And having a higher execution percentage is vital to consistency. Missed shots, they add up, right? Missed executions add up. You want to be able to execute. Even if they're blocking it, you still want to be able to put those shots on goal. And when you're at home, whether it's at your local DYP, playing with your friends or whoever, practice as you would play. Use your timeouts at home. I know, come on, buddy, you're calling timeouts here. Yeah, I am. I want to practice for that upcoming tournament. I'm going to use my timeouts. I'm going to take my time on the different rods. I'm going to play the way I'm going to play at the event that I'm going to be playing in here shortly. And the other thing, too, is watch video. When you're at home in preparation, one of those things, and it's not self-serving here, but watch the best players. Watch guys like Louis Cartwright. Watch what they do in certain situations and understand why they're doing it. So for me, if you didn't win the tournament, if you didn't win those matches at the tournament, it's because you didn't prepare well enough at home.
FoosTalk Live proudly presents the Top 5. Number 1.
Okay, so just to touch more on that, actually, what you just said, a lot of my success, I don't know how I would have been if I didn't have videos to watch back then. I probably would have been way better. But I used to go around and watch all the top players play, and I would pick up little things on them. So just imagine if, people watch the videos, all the things they could pick up through there. So that's a great number 2 you had there, Jim.
Thank you, sir.
I don't have a great number 1 because I didn't have a lot of time to prepare. So it's like a 2-parter. First one is obviously I didn't score as many points, or the person didn't score as many points to win. And my top reason is they probably listened to Mark.
I knew that was coming.
Dang it. I should have had that one. No, and it's so true. Yeah, it's all very true. For me, my number 1, and it's something, of course, I preach on the air, and I've talked about it endlessly, seemingly here as well. You lost because you didn't exercise good table management. And Louis touched on this a little bit, a couple of these back. But, you want to have an awareness of the pace and tempo of a match. Control it if you can. You want to be disciplined with the things you worked on at home, taking your time, executing good shots, being adaptable, use your timeouts. Even something as simple as taking the full amount of time between games. Take that minute and a half. There's a tendency a lot of times for players, they lose a game, they want to immediately get back out there and play. No. Step away. Step away for that minute and a half that they give you these days, win or lose. But it's about the most important thing. Lewis called it the chess game aspect, and that is what it is. But it's also having a feel for what's going on in the moment on the table and being able. You mentioned Todd Lafredo. Yeah, he's the king of adapting, no doubt. He always knows when to make that particular adaptation or adjustment. Adjust to the adjustments is really what it comes down to. And that's all about table management. Once you have the skills, and most everybody you play is going to have skills good enough to win, it's how you use them. And that is the most important thing. Yes, get the skills, work on all that stuff, work on the ball control and passes and shots at home, warm up at the events itself, get adjusted to the particular tables, etc. But it comes down to who makes the best decisions, who utilizes their best strategic approach, who has the awareness of pace and tempo, who can control that, who uses timeouts, who is the most disciplined, and who takes their time on each and every possession and between games. So if you lost, because you didn't exercise good table management. That's my number one.
What a list. I've been writing everything down here, by the way, guys. Definitely got to take this to my next tournament.
Yeah, at this stage, Tom, you better be 6 months away from turning master. That's all I'm saying. With everything you're getting on this show, buddy, except for Mark.
All right, yeah. No, that's fantastic. No, I think that the mental part of this game is for someone, from my perspective, coming back into this after so many years of being away, it blows my mind how much of this is a chess match and how much of this has to be. There's forethought and, of course, discipline. It's astounding, but that proves it right there. What a great list.
I'm a big baseball fan, right? And right now, of course, baseball playoffs taking place. There really is nothing better. And foosball's a lot like baseball in that there's so much going on. There's so many levels and so many layers to the game, so much strategy. And I know, Louis, you were as good as anybody at breaking a game down and understanding what's going on and making those adjustments. And as you said, preparing for individual players because you did your homework. And on that note, you're a guy that had most of your success in the 90s and then into the early and mid 2000s, which was, many people consider that the second golden era. And it was a different era. There were more great players perhaps than there are now. What to you, as a guy who has transcended that era, and now you're still a fan and still dabble a little bit playing, what are the differences between back then and today, both good and bad?
Wow. That's like a loaded question.
Yeah, take your time. We have got lots of time to fill here.
Well, if you look at the players back when I was in my heyday, you already touched on it. It's the amount of competition, the amount of people that could win at any moment. And nobody could really actually dominate as thoroughly as they do today because of the amount of players that were at the top of their game. Whereas today, I'm going to use Tony. I got nothing but respect for him. But let's just say Tony had started in our era. Tony definitely still would have won some, I'm assuming. But would he have been able to build the skill set and the confidence and everything else that comes with winning over and over and over, where it becomes natural, if he had done it in a different era? Same with anybody in our era if we'd have done it in the 70s. When you start winning and you start building on it, it starts becoming second nature. It starts becoming easier. Your confidence is there. There's a lot of things that change. Whereas if you're doing it in an era where there's only one or two other players that can compete at your level, yeah, I mean, that's the way I look at it a lot. But when you look at like Tony and Ryan, their focus is what stands out the most to me. Their focus and their minds. You were talking about, the mental game, Tom. You know how many people out there have more skill? They can do trick shots, whatever it is, better than most of the top players, but they don't win. It's because of the mental game, except for Billy. Billy can do everything. Yeah. But if you get where I'm going with that.
Yes, I do. No, I've seen plenty of talent out there. It just, when it comes down to those clutch situations, when you're, it's 4-4, final ball. And it's the disciplined people, the people that really think about what they're doing and have an idea as to, like Jim was saying, table management. How do they close the deal, right? That's the difference, I think, between the let's say a pro and a pro master.
Yeah, not just closing. There's the entire from start to finish.
Sure.
And I want to bring up also, I watched the videos. I didn't I watch most of them, but Ryan Moore really just impressed the heck out of me when I watch him. His focus was incredible.
Yes.
And go right back to the mental. If you watch him, the amount of thought that he was putting into every single aspect, whether it was defense, offense, no matter which rod, was incredible. And it reminds me of Tony. If you watch Tony, his focus and thinking, you can just see those two players. That's why they would win in any era. It's obvious.
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder how it would work out if we all, me and my era, them and their era, if we'd have done it against 100 more people that were our level.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's the thing. These guys would have had to go through more levels and more variations in these great players because there were so many great players in your era. Let me ask you this, and I know you've played against both Tony and Ryan here and there. When you've come back out on tour once or twice in the last 15 years. But what would you do? When you watch Ryan Moore, you saw what he did at Tornado Championships. How would you handle him? How would you approach defending him, either on the 5 or as a goalie?
I'd be more scared of Tony's 5. I know you're not comparing, but it would be mental. I believe that I would have to figure out which area of the table I'm going to try to take away from him and focus more on that because he's too good on every rod. So if you try to break yourself down and take each aspect away, that could actually make you weaker overall. I've had moments where I've beaten players because I said, you know what, he's getting the ball every time, he's scoring every time. What am I going to do? So I focus my energy more in one area, and I've actually won because of that. Whether it's, okay, don't let the guy get the ball anymore. Okay, can't stop him. Whatever it is, I would try to find out the more of a weakness, even so, you don't want to call it a weakness, I guess, lesser strength. And I would try to work on that and then try to expand around that.
Yeah, and one of the things I always identified with you was your mental toughness, right? You said it a minute ago. I'd be more afraid of Tony's 5. I don't believe you. I don't think you were ever afraid of anybody. At least you didn't appear to be. You always felt you could match anybody, certainly mentally, and that was one of the strengths of your game. Do you see that? Is that something you see, or is that something me as a reporter looking at you that I'm only seeing? Or do you also identify just how mentally tough? Maybe we'll call it stubborn. How tough you were, and that have certainly contributed to your multiple wins on tour. But did you always consider yourself as a mentally tough player, maybe more mentally tough than just about everybody else?
No, I only heard that from other people. I was always too focused to worry about anything like that. I mean, my mental, my focus, everything was so intense when I was at the top of my game. I didn't let anything like that even enter my mind.
Yeah.
And the reason I did bring up Tony's 5 is because his 5 is the only, and I've told Tony this, his 5 is the only thing in my career that I just really felt I couldn't stop.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean I couldn't beat Tony. That just means I couldn't stop his 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
Greatest 5 ever, in your opinion?
Against me, yes. I mean, when I and the videos I've seen, it's just his ability, the speed he's doing it, and as long as he's not giving any tells away, it's almost impossible to block with the way he's thinking.
Yeah.
It's almost like Horton's was, except for Horton's would throw in more guesses than Tony, in my opinion. But the ability, if you can see a hole and hit it when it's opening out of that series compared to any other series you're doing, then to me, against me, that's the best offensive 5 I've ever faced.
You said something there about Horton throwing in more guesses, and that's a really perceptive point, I think. Tony doesn't really guess, does he? There really very little guessing with Tony. He knows why he's doing everything he's doing, and to make that comparison, I immediately said, he's right about that. But a great 5, and in Tony's case, maybe the best 5 ever, is one. He's not guessing, is he? Not at all, really.
I think if you watch him or Ryan, I don't think either one of them make a whole lot of guesses. Maybe there's always going to be a time where they're going to have to guess whether it's time running out or they've seen something before, and then they call it an educated guess. But when you watch both of those players, there's not a lot of guessing going on, or maybe if they're crushing, but you're not going to see with those two players. It's almost like Terry. You didn't see a lot of guessing with Terry.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've found really fascinating watching Tony play against Tommy Yor Jr. At Texas State's, and it was a battle royale, but they both have a very similar playing style and philosophy, and Tommy was able to dominate Tony. So
I wouldn't say dominate, but I'd say beat him.
But beat him handily. And it just seemed to me, if you're using someone else's style against them, that's a rare thing. Have you seen that before, Louis?
Well, that's actually something that I tell other people. I tell them if you can't stop somebody or a certain shot or anything, use that against other people and see what they do to stop you. But I did watch, I think it was that match at Texas. I watched that on Inside Foos, and this is just my opinion, but I don't feel Tony played his game properly. It could be from previous matches they played or some kind of history.
Okay.
But Tony was doing a lot on his shot, especially where I would see some holes. I'm wondering why isn't he shooting that? And that probably has to do with their history. Maybe something that Tommy has done to him in the past that caused him to change his shot selection. I noticed he didn't use the same way, like say he was trying to shoot on Ryan or other people that I've seen him play. And I could be way off base here, but that's what I observed from watching the video.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I think that he was maybe overthinking some things. And in my opinion, if those two guys played 10 matches, I'm still thinking Tony's winning 7 of them, despite that incredible performance by Tommy Orr for sure.
So, Louis, when it comes to that rivalry between, let's say, a Ryan Moore and a Tony Sprademan, going head to head, who's that for you in your career? Who is that person that you always went head to head with that you found the most challenging?
Well, that's hands down Terry. Terry and I battled for I don't even know how many years.
Yeah.
We had some of the fastest matches. We've had some of the longest matches. It just, no matter what, when Terry and I played each other, we're both sweating, we're both working, we're both trying to get, the next chess piece off. I mean, in my career, that was my toughest opponent over the years. And it didn't matter. Even if I beat him the entire year, those were still my toughest matches. Terry was my toughest opponent by far.
Really?
Yeah, I recall that as well. And you guys both kind of came up at the same. Maybe he hit a year earlier than you did, maybe, but you both were coming up. He was in San Diego, you were in Las Vegas. You both kind of hit at the same time, but those were battles, and they were really high end, intelligent foosball matches every time you guys played. And speaking of those times, one of the things we talk about here with young players is one of the key things is to make sure you play against better players. Take your beatings early. You're going to get in there. You can't learn more in any other way than playing against better players than you and taking something from those matches. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit, especially early in your career, or how important it is to kind of take your beatings early and make sure you learn from them?
I never looked at it as beatings because I always felt I had a chance no matter how bad I was. But I can still remember when I first started playing here in Vegas at the arcade, and there was one player here that he was the best player by far, and he's the one I actually styled my game after as far as a firewall, and I used to shoot a pull. But everybody would take their quarters and go to the other table. I didn't do that. I took what quarters I had, and I played the guy that was the best because I wanted to get better. And I don't know where I got that from. That was just in my mind. And now even when I see players here locally, newer players, and they want to play, I tell them, hey, watch my game. Watch this person, watch this person. Try to mimic their game, try to mimic their defense, whatever it is, and then turn it into your own style. Because that's how you get better at anything. It doesn't matter if it's basketball or wherever you want to go.
Who was that player?
His Link Loose. I doubt you know him.
Yeah.
You might know him.
I remember him. Sure.
He was the giant killer. Like we'd go play in California or something, and he'd beat Todd or he'd beat whichever top player was there, and then he'd turn around. He was usually his own worst enemy. He'd mentally lose to somebody that he shouldn't be losing to.
That's an interesting thing too. That mental aspect of the game when you step up to the table, and you're pretty sure the person standing on the other side is nowhere near your skill level or should even be in the same room. When that happens, and it's probably for you very rare, but when that does happen, what do you do afterwards? How do you recover from that?
Actually, it's what I learned is what you do before. If you watch a lot of those type of players, they're trying their hardest from ball one against the rookie. They're trying their hardest ball one against the pro master. I learned you play the player. And a lot of times, when I was winning, I could walk up to the table and you could already tell the players already beat themselves before they played me. So I would play the player. Why try hard when you don't have to? Sometimes playing a rookie, because they're a rookie playing that style, you might beat them in 5 minutes in a 3 out of 5 match. Whereas if you're trying really hard, these guys are used to people trying really hard, trying particular styles, and you just play the player. And I'm sure that's what all the top players are doing.
You don't think that could be dangerous at times? If you maybe don't give a guy enough respect. I mean, not everybody can get away with that. I don't think, can they?
Well, I can only speak from my own personal experience, and I was a lazy player. I only tried as hard as I had to. A lot of times I would put myself in a bad spot.
Yeah. Definitely worked for you. All right, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the amazing partnership you had with Trevor Park. And our good friend Noah Rosenstein out in California, he's producing a documentary about Trevor and his difficulties in getting that first major win after 10 losses in big finals. But you and Trevor Park, 2000 and 2001, you faced Frederick Collignon and Todd Alfredo in the finals at the Tornado Worlds. In 2003, you face a red hot Adrian Zamora and Eddie Gartman in the finals at Tornado Worlds. You reached the finals in 3 out of 4 years. That 2001 final is still talked about as maybe the greatest match in history. 4-4 fifth game. Both final matches went 4-4 fifth game. 4-4 fifth game, second set. Fred gets the ball, serves it, passes it, sets it up, calls timeout, comes back to the table, sets it up, and you're putting up the Lewis Shuffle, as it's known now, where you're basically attempting to cover as much of that goal as you possibly can. Now, people, it's more than that. It isn't just moving them in as fast as you can. There's a lot of thought behind what you were doing as well. But talk about that match, talk about your partnership with Trevor and that run that you guys had together.
Well, the partnership with Trevor, and I never thought about it till years later, and people started asking about it, but there was something, at least on my end, our chemistry was incredible playing together. I never understood his game, which is hard for me because usually if I didn't understand somebody's game, I was kicking them to the curb and going to the next guy because I needed to understand why somebody was not scoring or whatever was going on. But Trevor and I feel, just had great chemistry, and we were the kind of guys that would be, let's go to war. And if you're struggling, I'm going to up my game without even having to talk about it. If I'm struggling, it's amazing how many times, if you watch us, how all of a sudden he just dominated if I was getting scored on. And I remember those games, but I wish people knew how smart Trevor actually is in his game. A lot of people look at his game and they think, oh, he's just talented. He's a guesser. He does this, he does that. Well, I got the opportunity during COVID when I went out to his house several times, and we started discussing things, and he explained stuff to me about players and how to do things that I've never thought about in my entire career. He told me things about my game. He told me things that he does to people. And now these are conversations we never had as partners. So I wish the world could actually hear the knowledge that he actually has in the game and how he took on challenges and how he figured things out that I never understood. And we probably would have been a better team if we'd have communicated those things. And I know, Jim, you've talked to him because you guys are really good friends.
Yeah, for sure. And that 2001 final, I touched on it a little bit, that famous play at the end where Fred tucks that shot into that corner, not much of a hole there against the Lewis Shuffle. But talk about that match and how the crowd was so responsive to every goal, and how that match was so back and forth, could have gone either way, was so closely contested. This is early in the partnership of Fred and Todd. They paired up in 98. This was 01. But what an incredible match it was. And I still get chills thinking about it. To me, it's certainly one of my greatest foosball experiences. But from your point of view, down there on the table, going up against those guys with a big crowd, with your great friend and your partner, Trevor Park, talk a little bit about that year, 2001, and that match in particular.
That's hard. I have watched it, and I thought all 4 players played incredible. I think Todd, once again, his adaptation, the times he did certain things, whether they were lucky or not, certain things he did that changed the flow of the match. The way he changed his defense, where he would rock with Trevor, sometimes he wouldn't. And we talked about the mental part. If I remember correctly, the match point, I think it's the first mental breakdown I had, and for some reason I looked at the score and I said to myself, it's almost over. And I didn't have the same energy that I had the entire match, 2 matches up to that point.
Wow.
And that is something I've looked back on before, and I thought, why did I do that? That's why a lot of times I would hardly pay attention to score or whatever, because if you do that, you can get distracted, like I mentioned in the top 5.
Wow.
That's my biggest memory, was that one moment. I believe that was my letdown. And I believe a few of those pull sides he hit were lucky. I mean, Fred, greatest player of all time. I'm not going to take that away. But Fred's a guy that if something works, he's going to try it again. And that's what I think I saw was when I watched the match. Some of those that he hit weren't there. Sometimes you can be on something, you bob, whatever.
Yeah.
And that was that's my memory recollection from there. But everybody played great. You couldn't take anything away from any player during that match.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, there's when you can say that, especially at this this stage, looking back at that knowing that everybody put everything on the table, everything.
Yeah.
Incidentally, I believe that your personal stalker has arrived here. Mark Torres, are you with us?
Here we go.
What's up? What I miss? Top 5, man. Did I miss that already? I missed it, didn't I?
You missed it
by quite a bit.
No.
That's right.
I represented
You were number one, buddy. You were number one on Lewis's list.
Number 5, I went to school. Number 4, my parents' divorce. It affected me deeply.
Yeah.
Number 3, Trevor Park. I watched him, and it made me fail.
Yeah.
And then number 2 is Lewis because he made me fail too. And then number 1 is like Sugar, and then that's it.
Sugar.
Yeah.
Boom. Boom.
What a great list.
I caught on the tail end. I think we're talking about everyone playing great in what may be one of the greatest open doubles matches finals of all time. Is that what I got the tail end of?
That's right. 2001. Yep.
Yeah, man. I didn't mean to just completely disrupt, but that's what I do, right? I just come in and disrupt.
No, your timing's perfect. We have 6 minutes or so left in the show, and you get to come on. And I think Tom and I were pretty much out of questions, so that we're turning it over to you. It's now the Mark Torres Show.
Did you guys know that Lewis has a twin brother?
Really?
No.
Lewis, talk about your twin brother and how dissimilar you guys are.
What? He's all right. He's skinny. I'm fat. There you go.
Boom.
Is that little Joe or Haas?
No, it's true. He has a twin brother.
I do. I have a twin brother.
Okay.
I'm 5 minutes older than him. He started playing foosball at the same time I started playing in a youth center in Arizona. He went on to partying and being part of a rock band, and I went on to playing foosball.
Wow.
And what's his name?
Lee.
Now you said in Arizona. Was that because I know you both, but you and Rob Mars, was it Sierra Vista, Arizona?
Yeah, Sierra Vista. That's where Rob used to come down and joke with Octavio, I believe was his friend, and they would just pound us, for however long and laugh.
And then, in the flashback a little earlier on, there you are playing Robert Mars in the finals of the 1996 Tornado World Championships. How about that?
Getting my revenge.
Ooh, best served cold, correct?
Yeah, mine meant a lot more than when he was beating me in the youth center.
Yeah, Mark has 5 or 6 questions to ask you, I'm sure. So, Mark, go ahead, take over.
So seriously, man, you've had a lot of you have a tremendous career in foosball, but do you have like a seriously memorable loss that, when you think about it, you struggle with it?
No, I think struggle. No, I always know why I lost or what happened. So,
well, how about the loss you hate? Do you have a loss you really, really hate?
Yes. Oh, actually, yeah. I actually, this could answer both those questions. 2003 Worlds against Eddie and Adrian. Love both of those guys, especially Adrian. Adrian's one of my favorite all-time players. Awesome guy. And the reason I hate it is because maybe liking them might have been a part of why we lost, but I knew that when we beat, I don't even remember who we beat in the winner or losers, but I knew that we were going to win. I was like, we already beat Adrian once. We already beat all the best teams. And at that time, and this is disrespectful and it wasn't meant to be, but I just did not respect Eddie and Adrian at the levels I would have Todd and Fred or anything else. And I know for sure that I went into that thinking it's over. We've already won, which immediately impacted my game, which means I'm not going to play as good.
You guys won the winner's bracket, right? You guys won the winner's bracket in that, and I feel like you had a shot to win the opening set and win the championship.
I don't remember. I just know that I was a huge part of that loss, because going into any match against a great team like that, all of a sudden you're not trying as hard as you did the entire tournament to get there. And that's a huge, huge, huge on me. I can't even speak for Trevor because I don't know what Trevor's thoughts were. I got mad at Trevor during that match, but that one, and of course losing to Tony Spreedeman in the finals of singles, because I got crushed.
let me speak on 2 points regarding first. Yeah, Tony, did you win a game? I think Tony wrecked you, but there was like 6 straight, wasn't it? But anyway, did you get 4 points in that match? I don't think you got 4 points in that match. Anyway. He smoked you. He obliterated you. All right, anyway, let's talk about the open doubles final. Here's what's Trevor's problem, right? Trevor's problem is that he had issues with people he liked. So if he liked you, because Trevor had his own head trips, man. I mean, talk to the guy all the time, right? One of his issues is if he liked you, if he couldn't build up some kind of angst or hatred, like if he didn't like you, you were done. Go ask Bobby Diaz what happens when Trevor builds something up against you. Oh, Trevor will wreck you. Trevor, and some people need certain things, and it's unfortunate. If Trevor liked you, it was going to be harder on him to do stuff. Like the adrenaline waned and the decision making was weird. And he even made some claims before, which I asked later on. I asked Fred later on. He used to think that Fred would talk to him and be nice to him before matches to butter him up. Now I asked Fred. I said, "Hey man, is this real?" And Fred said, "Nope, not all. I'm just like, I like Trevor. I bet you if Trevor didn't like Fred for any reason, real or not, absolutely that was an issue. And you and Trevor had different issues coming in. Yours is going to be that you generally wreck that team. Adrian was doing something bizarre. If you remember, Jim, he decided to completely change his 5-bar for that tournament. And he was a total confounding to Terry Moore. He wrecked Terry Moore on the 5-bar. And so Adrian was playing one of those tournaments he couldn't lose. And if went in that, go ahead.
We did put him in the losers, though. We did beat him. That was part of my confidence there. That was why I was like,
right. And then you won the first set. That's right. You did win the first set of the final, and then lost in that second set. That's how it went down. Yeah.
Wait a minute. How could that be? They won. Oh, they lost the first set.
Oh, I'm sorry. They lost. No, you're right. You got double.
Yeah, I got double.
Yeah, we got double.
But Adrian was once Adrian got past Terry and Bobby that match. That was a big one, right? That was the hurdle, and then they were just all lights out. So it's just funny how, I don't know, man. Like you were kind of different, right? Your head game was really different. Your head game was pretty fixed, and you're like a bull. You're just going to keep going forward in your direction no matter what. Trevor had these weird head trips, and you're on a team, right? You guys have to be gelling at the same time. Besides, let's not get in the weeds of that. What's your favorite win? All between all the wins you've had, is there one win that really stands out?
I think it was when I won novice singles, but
90.
Yeah, my biggest match was the 2001. Yeah, the one we took second. But my biggest win, I guess, was when I won novice singles, because that was a very, very hard field.
I love that. Tom, I'm not sure if you heard. I was fortunate to do Louis's introduction at the Hall of Fame when he was inducted to the Hall of Fame. Yeah, I was chosen because the person he chose couldn't make it, so I was chosen.
Very cool.
His first. It's very disparaging.
So
right?
Did he sufficiently?
I wanted somebody that could talk about themselves only.
I heard you were there was 5 people who couldn't make it. And he asked me, and I said, "No, it's probably not appropriate for me to do it. Find somebody else."
Yeah, he was looking for people to the last minute, and then he texted me, "Hey, can you do this? I'm up next."
Hey, Louis, I got to drop, guys, but I just want to say thanks to you, Louis, for joining us again tonight, and appreciate it. I got to drop, but Tom and Mark, I'm sure I'll have a few more questions for you.
Sure.
Hey, thanks, Jim.
Great chatting again, Jim.
Jim, drive.
See you guys.
Yeah, we'll catch you next time.
See you, bud. I just wanted to, finish this thought, and then it was about Louis. So, Tom, did you hear this Hall of Fame introduction, or I don't know if you were at the?
I don't think I heard that.
It started with when Mark won amateur doubles.
Oh yes, yes, of course.
It started with that. God, I love that, man. I was so drunk.
I need to go back in the archives and check it out for sure.
Hey,
Go ahead. Yeah.
Let me just go back to what you were saying. So my favorite match ever was 2001 when we took second. My biggest letdown was when I lost to Adrian with Trevor, me and Trevor. And my match that I will not watch was when I got crushed by Tony, that you keep reminding me about. That's the match I won't even watch. It is that painful to me. I won't even watch it.
Dude,
thanks,
what
Mark.
you need to know, I was rooting for you, man. Come on.
You're always rooting for me. I know that.
Yeah. So I was like, I had your back. But Tony, look, Tony was on his way up, but he was nowhere near peaking. But he was.
Oh no, he's way better now.
There are these versions of Tony, Tom, because we've seen Tony since he was 18, right?
Right.
There are these versions of Tony where there's angry Tony. There's like angry 18, 19, 20-year-old Tony. He's angry.
The rageaholic.
And it's the rage Tony, the one that's in his room practicing the hard, like heavy metal music, raging against the machine. And the machine is anybody in front of him playing foosball. And then you get like a more seasoned Tony, but we don't really you don't know the ceiling on Tony because he's not done playing yet, and he's in his mid-30s.
Right.
But when he got a hold of Lewis, and that, which Lewis, were you surprised? Honest to God, were you surprised to be in that open singles final?
And if I remember correctly, well, obviously probably surprised, I don't know, but if I remember correctly, that's the year where I had posted something on Table Talk, I think, or whatever that was, recreation table, whatever, that I hadn't been in the finals for a while or hadn't won in a while, and I said this year I'm going to try or something. I actually made it there, so I don't think I was surprised.
Yeah, the thing about Lewis's game, Tom, so Lewis's game is, in a lot of ways, is classic 90s.
Mm-hmm.
But the other way it's classic 90s is it's very, very steady, very, very like in the when it's a pressure situation, he's going up or down. It's brush up or brush down. It's going to be like 2 or 3 hovers, probably 10 seconds on the 5 bar.
Right.
And if he doesn't see what he wants, and correct me at any time, he's calling a timeout, and he'll take a whole other look. He gets the ball on the 3 bar. He probably 80% know where he's going to go, but 100% knows where your second choice is. So it's very classic 90s. But the reason why that rings a bell is because when he was getting to the final, he was just he was like a warm knife through butter, but not Lewis. You weren't blowing people out, but you were just beating people at 4-4 every. That's what I remember. I mean, correct me, right? You were beating people.
I don't remember that all too well, but I know I played really solid. And my biggest weakness against Tony, other than Tony, was I never really had energy drinks or anything. And if I remember correctly, I drank some Red Bulls or something to get ready for that, and I couldn't slow my game down, which is my normal thing.
Yeah.
Normally, I'm a slow, methodical player, and I noticed I was playing quick, couldn't slow myself down. But overall, yeah, that's about it.
Well, you think about the classic players from that era. Tom Spear had a very slow game, very slow 5-row, just amazing, but super effective,
And I think it was less about slow. Lewis wasn't necessarily slow, but the pace was very measured, and he would get blocked. So this is what you knew you're going to play Lewis, whether he was at 80% or 100%. He was going to get blocks. He was going to score some from the back. He was going to get blocks on both rods, goalie rods for sure. He was going to get blocks on the 5 bar, and he was probably going to play you even. So you had to get ahead of him and hold on to that lead, because he was going to play you even. And if you blinked first, he was going to beat you 5-4.
Wow.
That's all. He was going to beat you 5-4. Like if you blinked, if you made a mistake, he was going to beat you. It's like playing a good chess master that's just going to keep plugging away. And if you start thinking about lunch in the middle of that match, he's going to get you. So,
like we talked
man,
about,
that was go ahead.
Distractions, right? Distractions, being distracted, not being focused or in the moment. That made the top 5 for sure. Yeah.
Well, I feel I was also able to raise my game. Like a lot of players, like I said, they would go in intense, full speed. I was lazy. I never went in full speed, or rarely. I did in doubles, not in singles. Singles, I would usually just start at my own pace, and if I had to get better, I would. But like I said, sometimes you beat people without trying harder. And so when those people are trying hard and you're going back and forth the way Mark said, there was a lot of times where I was able to just, you know what, it's time for me to raise my game. And they were already stuck in 5th gear, and they couldn't go any higher. So,
nice. Well, here's an interesting philosophy I've seen even with one of our local pro masters. His philosophy is to kind of hold back a little bit in that first game to see what you're going to do, test you out, and use some low percentage shots, perhaps. Not certainly lose intentionally, but just hold back a bit and not use any killer shots until the second game.
I completely disagree with that. Who is that?
His name is Kevin Walker.
I've heard about him from, I think, Kevin Skaltz.
He's good.
Others.
Yeah, he's good.
Kevin's.
But I disagree with that theory, because you're already setting yourself up to start behind.
Okay.
So
I think what his philosophy is, though, he wants to see what it is you like to do, what your strengths are, then take your strengths away in the second game, and then turn on his game, because he's been holding back on his top stuff. In other words,
okay, here's my argument with that.
Okay.
You can start no matter what style it is. Like I said, I was lazy. I started lazy. It doesn't matter. Play your game. No matter how you're playing, you should be figuring out their game, no matter how you're playing. So you can start out. I can say whatever on here, right? Balls out.
Sure.
Or you can start out lax. It doesn't matter. You don't save things for the next game. I don't get that. You figure things out during the match, whereas let's say every time you're setting it up and this guy's leaving this shot on a quick shot.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you're dragging the ball back and forth on the 5, he's leaving you this quick or late or whatever off of emotion. You can still save that in your pocket and use it when needed. You can figure out their weaknesses. You can figure out what to use against them. But why would you say, hey, I'm going to call it stupid stuff to the first game and figure out? That doesn't make any sense to me. I'm 1,000% against that.
Okay, gotcha. No, it's just something that I had heard him mention and talk about in philosophy, but I guess everybody has a different way of looking at it.
Yeah,
well,
I don't. Go ahead, Liz.
I was just gonna say I believe in thinking more like a Gummison style. I guess Gummison overthinks, but I believe everything that I ever do has a thought involved, a reason behind it, which he has a reason what you're saying. And maybe I didn't understand completely what he's doing, or maybe you didn't convey what he's trying to do. But the way I understood it, it just like that bothers me. You can't even tell by the way I'm talking about it. I don't like the thought process in it.
Right.
Everything I do in my game has a thought process behind it and how it's going to be effective. If it's not effective, why did that happen? What did this guy do? What's his weakness?
Mm-hmm.
What can I use against him? I disagree with that.
No, I think that's we're basically saying the same thing, just a different way. He's using his first game against you to see where you want to be, what you want to do, what it is you like to do as a player, what your strengths are. And then once he understands, more about you, then he can take away your favorite plays, your favorite the things you like to do most, and then of course simultaneously turn on his A game.
Yeah, I don't think you guys. Go ahead.
That's normal. That's every good player, I would hope. That's how I look at it.
Sure.
What throws me off is when you said he's going to start off with some weak shots.
No. I think what I meant was maybe shots that are low percentage in the sense that not for him necessarily, but for other people. Push kicks or something like that, or quick shooting that he wouldn't do if he was in a clutch situation.
Yeah, I'll let Mark talk.
Okay.
I think I don't know what level caliber player Kevin Walker is playing when he's doing these things. I don't know if you guys are necessarily disagreeing. It is very typical for a master who's never seen another player to step up to the table and not throw the game, play a good, solid game, but be more attentive in the first game to all the weaknesses of the opponent.
Right.
So very attentive the first game, because I know a lot of masters could lose that first game, but they're not sweating it because they didn't lose that game without picking up everything they needed to win the rest of the match. And it's not like they tried to throw the game. They didn't try to throw the game.
No.
They just, this is a new player they haven't seen before. They're doing their best stuff. The reverse wall pass. Okay, there it is. They're push shooters. They like to shoot a push.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you got 2 on me. And then maybe most masters will win that game anyway. But some masters will drop that first game versus an amateur expert player. Then it's lights out. It's like the person never existed because they got all the information they needed was in the first game. I don't think you guys are disagreeing, but I don't see I don't think you'll see Louis quick shooting anything just to throw shots on goal.
Right.
Louis is going to give you his rollover or his pull shot, and he's going to give you his 5 bar, unless he, one side or the other, and shoot his shots on the 2 bar. But he's going to do all the things that Kevin is doing while he's doing that stuff.
Got it.
Is that fair?
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair. Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's just something that me, because I'm coming from a perspective of learning what's going on here. It's completely from scratch, just observing what other people do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you guys are probably on the same page. Mark explained it good. I think all good players are going to, no matter what game they're throwing out there, they're going to be trying to figure out the other player and to use it against them. I think I was just thrown off with the lower percentage shots he's going to try, because to me that makes no sense. When I'm up there, I'm going to shoot the hole I see. I'm not going to say,
oh sure,
well that hole's huge, but I'm going to try this hole that's smaller. That's kind of how it came across to me.
No, I gotcha. Yeah, it's unfortunately I don't have the vocabulary to carry that kind of a conversation.
Just fine.
Yeah.
So, Louis, you going to be playing? You playing in Colorado?
Dude, I was supposed to go to Colorado last time, or whatever it was. I bought the plane ticket, booked the room. Then I was going to go to Worlds. Then I was going to go to Colorado this year. But I have something way more important to me, and that's my family.
Okay.
And my wife is incredibly concerned with the possibility of not, I mean, obviously none of us getting COVID, but my son is not vaccinated.
Yeah.
So she is very concerned that I could possibly, you know, get him sick with COVID. So to me, happy wife, happy life. I'm going to put it off. I really wanted to go to Worlds. I was going to play with Trevor. You know, Trevor's probably going to get tired of asking me to play pretty soon because he's been really trying to get me to go to all these tournaments. And I really, really, really want to go. And I've got my wife where I beat her down, not physically, but beat her down to where she finally goes, you know what? Okay. Cause I'll, you know how we are. We're guys. I'll be thinking, we test all the time here weekly. Like we buy the home test kits.
Sure.
And so I thought about it the other day and I was like, babe, I test every week here anyway if I play locally or whatever. So why can't I do that if I go to Worlds, or why can't I do that if I go to Colorado? And that's the one that got her. That was the hook. But then I thought about it. I was thinking she's going to have anxiety because she does have anxiety.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I'm going to have to wait till the world's a better place before I can start playing again. And I really feel bad for Trevor because Trevor, I think, is really putting the time in and everything else. And when I watch his game,
dude, he's putting so much time in. Let me tell you. So he's got these. You know this. You've been there. He's got like a dozen people at his house all the time. He's doing stuff he didn't used to do. He pretty much resigned that the walking snake is the way to go. And it's made scoring for him so easy. Made it easy, man. He scores easy now.
I watched the video wherever it is he took second, and his game looked really good. And, you know, that's another reason I feel bad because he's playing good enough to, you know, he can carry me the parts I'm down where I can get my game back. But I feel so bad about letting him down on that. I wish we could play together again.
I need to know which tournament is the next one you're going to, because that's the one I'm going to go to. I say that, though, but I've been to like 6 this year. I've never been to 6 tournaments ever in my whole – the most I've ever been to is 3 when I was at my peak. But because of Inside Foods, I've been to 6 tournaments. So it's you know, I'm used to going again, man. I'd love to come out and hang out. It's going to be good. When do you think is the next one you're going to be able to make it to? It's going to be next year?
Probably here in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, besides, I don't like people, so I don't really care who's there unless it's some of my friends, which obviously you and the group text we have, Trevor, stuff like that. So it's probably going to be Vegas, or until COVID goes away and my wife feels more comfortable with it.
Yeah, 2022 is looking pretty good. I mean, it really comes down to the curve, you know, how things go as far as the testing for everybody. But yeah, 2022 I think is going to come alive when it comes to foosball. We've already seen that in the second half of this year. Outrageous attendance in Texas, and of course in Lexington, and more than likely in Colorado. So looking positive. But 2022.
Hey, I saw the video again of Ryan and Tony. The crowd was actually starting to come back, you know, because you haven't seen a crowd for ages.
Yep.
And I would love to have Trevor and I, if we get our games back, go up against these guys because I think we could give them a good run for their money.
Right there on Inside Foos live streamed as you go toe to toe. That would be awesome.
Dude, I believe 100%. And I think what happened is foosball is unique, that the great players that were winners, they didn't stick around. They didn't stick around until their games dropped off. They just quit. So a lot of, you know, I don't want to be too critical, but you got Tony's an exception. Other people that are winning probably wouldn't be winning or placing as high as they would if a lot of the 90s guys stuck around to keep playing. And when you guys come out of the woodwork, the skill matches, but the head game is equal or better.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way it is. Go ahead.
I actually mentioned that earlier when we were talking before you came on that I wonder if we'll say Tony and Ryan, they're gonna get some wins, but they would not have had the time, the ability of the easier wins to build that confidence in their games when they're going up against numerous amounts of top players and the matchups, which I forgot to mention earlier. A lot of times you can be a great player.
Yes.
There's certain
100%.
players that would crush Terry or whoever. I don't want to say Terry, but and then they would come across somebody like me, and I would have the easiest time beating them.
Yes.
And vice versa.
That's what people don't understand. Okay, so let me give credit where credit is due. The skill level is off the charts. You look at guys like Tony and Ryan and Billy, skill level is off the charts. Those guys are incredible, like stunning, amazing. But the thing that people easily forget, and how they don't even forget it, they weren't even around. When there was a lot more people playing, when you add one more person, you add a whole list of new variables. When you add people that have put the 10,000 hours in, that are highly skilled, matchups become everything. So a guy like Todd, who could wipe the floor with everybody in the room, runs into Steve Morey and loses. Now imagine you go back and there's a dozen of these guys who your game doesn't match up with. So you have compounding variables. So you got to be that much better. That's leaving out the fact that when the charts are bigger, you got to play extra matches. Every extra tough match wears on you mentally. So you got mental fatigue and physical fatigue, and you got just more people. All that stuff got lost over time because people quit playing. And it matters. So it's not to say these great players, Ryan, Tony, Tommy, these guys would probably still be up there, but you have a lot more fighting to do, physically, mentally, skill-wise, for sure. Your game gets tested. And this is the thing I love about when there was a lot more people playing. And this was true for 10, 15 years. You walk around the room when the brackets were full, you walk around the room and there's some amateur team that no one's ever seen before that's been practicing in their basement that's upsetting a pro team. It's either match ball or the pro team is going in the loser bracket. Seeds used to fall all the time because there was way more players that people had to figure out and they couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. You don't have that anymore. It's the usual suspects every single time at fifth or better, with rare exception. A pro team rises, but the matchups aren't there. The contrasting styles aren't there, and just the sheer challenge of playing against diversity. And it's just it's missing. But anyway, you and Trevor come back into the fold, man, and you bring experience. You bring a different level of skill and a different level of mental toughness. It's going to be fun to watch you guys play again.
Yeah, you talked about some of the players that kind of quit or whatever. I think a lot of the top players that are playing now from the old days quit a long time ago. They just show up because of the camaraderie, the friendships, stuff like that.
It's true.
Well, it is, no doubt that the turnouts have been record this year for the last 3 or 4 tournaments. So back in the 90s, what was considered a good turnout for a tournament?
Like 1,600, like 3 times.
Really?
I think. Yeah. There was a lot of people at these tournaments. What was that one? The one, Louis, when you went up was at the Worlds. They said there was 3,000 people there, but I think they meant entries. Remember the ESPN thing? It couldn't have been 3,000 people there,
3,000.
but they said entries. So I got Dave Currington. I remember he was on the show, but I think it was pushing 2,000 players.
Wow.
I remember they had like 150 tables at a lot of those tournaments.
Yes.
Compare that to now.
Huh. Yeah, right.
One year they had 200 tables.
Now they had to put tables in other ballrooms for certain things as well. They just didn't have enough room. So it used to be incredible size, and I guess 70s made that look small. So
no doubt.
Yeah.
Now it's
so like think about 200 tables. So right now I think Texas State had 60 tables. So think about 3 times the number of tables.
Now there was and of course back in those days, because there were so many more people showing up and of course more money being paid out, people can actually make a living doing this as a pro foosball player. Now, how many pro foosball players do we have making a living now? What is it, Tony and Todd?
One. Oh yeah, Todd. I guess maybe, I don't know.
If you want to call it making a living, because the money was the same in the 90s, but there was inflation. There's inflation now. So if the money is the same or even better in the 90s, but the cost of living is, I don't know, if it's like a $20 increase ratio, or 5 times ratio, then you actually could make some of a living back then. You need to subsidize.
Money was way better in the 90s if you look at that, because my biggest thing when I used to tour was I wanted to make sure that I could win enough money to cover my tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And that means flight, room, everything. And it was pretty easy to do. I think I went like 3 years or 4 years without ever not covering I always covered my tournament, and that could be maybe taking a 3rd or 4th. I don't remember, but money was way different.
Yeah. Well, that certainly could change sometime in the near future, hopefully, if all the stars fall into the right line. Who knows? We gotta keep our fingers crossed.
But I think the guys like Louis and Trevor now, that those dreams of foosball, making a living playing foosball, are so far dead and gone. They're even a little more dangerous because they're just playing for the joy and the win. There is no pipe dream of being, having a career in foosball. So they're a little bit more dangerous in those respects.
Sure. Yeah, understood.
So,
well, I mean,
Hey, Trevor, what I'm seeing from Trevor, he's hungry, like that I haven't seen in a long time. Me, really, my motivation would come from playing with Trevor, but just watching Trevor, talking to Trevor, he's hungry. He wants to win.
Cool. Wow.
Hey, and to go on that matchup comments that you were talking about earlier, just an example, like one of my biggest matchup problems was, I think it was Rodney Jenkins, if I remember correctly.
Yes, Rodney Jenkins.
It doesn't just have to be at the top level of players. If you're going through 1,000 players, whatever it is, 500 players, you're going to run into my Rodney Jenkins. You're going to run in. Every player is going to have their Rodney Jenkins, and it could be an amateur, it could be a semi-pro, it could be any of that, and let alone even at the top. At the top, you're going to have your Rodney Jenkins, but then you're going to have your Rodney Jenkins in the middle of the bracket.
Guess who Fred? That's a new term. Who's your Rodney Jenkins? Guess who Fred's Rodney Jenkins is?
We all know who that is. That's his daddy.
Mike Archer.
Yep. The one guy that owned him.
Yeah, the one guy that could beat Fred in singles. Beat him like 3 times. Like no one beat Fred.
I think he beat him every time. He never lost to Fred in singles, I think.
That's what he said.
There's one other guy. Yeah. That's what he said. Never lost. Maybe it was 5 times then.
Yep.
Might have been like 5
I think
times.
It was 5 times.
The best part about that is I didn't even know it happened, but I was watching some videos, and Mike actually beat Fred before I played Mike. And I'm watching how Mike just basically, I don't know how he beat him, but he beat him with the same game he tried to give me, and I actually beat Mike pretty easy. And Mike's beating me. So I'm not putting Mike down. Mike's beating me. But watching that tournament he tried to give me the same game, and I'm wondering, so how did Fred not beat this? But that was his Rodney Jenkins.
Yes. So funny. Todd Lafredo's Rodney Jenkins is Steve Morey. Steve Morey. You know Steve Morey is, Tom?
No, no idea.
So he's the inventor of the brush series, the TS master, who hasn't won a ton at all. If anything, he just won like some classic, maybe some pro double stuff on Tornado. But his 5-bar will melt. Basically, he gets through anybody in the 5-bar.
I never saw anybody block his 5.
Yeah, no one blocks his 5-bar. But people beat him anyway because he has weaknesses in other areas of the game. I mean, he's not, his strength is his 5-bar. Well, Lafredo lost to him like 3 or 4 times in a row in open singles when Lafredo would wipe the floor with everybody. What Lafredo would do is win every single event. We had 5 tour events. He'd win almost everything, like singles, doubles, and mixed. And he'd get to the Worlds, he'd only win doubles. He wouldn't win mixed, and he couldn't win singles. But anyway, at all these other tournaments, he's winning open singles. He tripled all the time on the tour. But the one guy, if he met up with Steve Morey just crushed him. And I asked Todd openly one time. I was like a 20-year-old kid. I'm like, Todd, why does this guy keep beating you? And Todd says he plays with my ticker. His timing gets thrown off because I was his 5-bar. But it didn't matter because if I tried to play Steve Morey's game against Todd, he would crush me. So Steve Morey was in Todd Lafredo's head. The same way Mike Archer got into Fred's head. Everybody has their nemesis in foosball. It's hilarious who these guys are. It'd be so random who they are. Very funny.
It's like pro tennis. There's if you're at a certain level, you can lose to just about anybody, or you can win against just about anybody.
Yeah, even it's very rare the guys, and sometimes it's a hometown guy. Like some guys have complete command. You know who I used to beat all the time? My buddy Fernando, who's way better than me in foosball. He's always been better than me in foosball. I beat that guy. He was the number 2 seed at a tournament. He was playing with Anthony Nagy. I had a rookie named Dave Rosenthal, and I beat him in like the 3rd round, 5 games, match ball, and like he just tries to forget about it. But like I don't know, that was the one guy I could beat pretty regularly, and he's my best friend and way better than me, or I'll ever be in foosball.
Hey, remember me and Fernando played you and Billy, and
I bricked the shit out of him.
Yeah, and I'm like, let me shoot it, Mark. Give me that same defense. You go, Lou, I wouldn't do that against you.
Yes,
it's because you had something on him. So
yes, I gave you a different defense. That's so funny. I bricked him so bad, but you know what? Lewis bricked Billy. That was annoying. If Billy could score on Lou, we would have been playing for 3rd. But that's not the way it went down. So
yeah, there was fun times.
Somebody join the chat, or did somebody?
Clay.
Clay's in the room.
Hello, I am
Clay.
I was trying to sneak in, man. Thanks for blowing my cover, Mark.
Dude, sorry.
This is rule number 1. Don't ever have a partner because you'll get caught every time.
What's up, dude?
What's cracking, man? I was just trying to be nosy. I wasn't trying to come in and spoil the fun. I saw everybody on. I was just trying to pop in, man.
No, man, it's open forum.
Hey,
you jump on in.
Tom and Mark and Clay. I'm sorry, I don't know you that well, so I don't know what parts you have. But can you guys add to your show, which I've been really bad, I haven't listened, but one of your questions for every person you have on, who's your Rodney Jenkins? That would be a good one.
I love it.
Yes.
You're Rodney Jenkins.
Yes, that's it. That's a good one. That's great.
I'm writing that down.
Who's your Rodney Jenkins? You didn't catch the Clay might know this as well as anybody. Clay, do you know the reference we're making? Were you listening before you jumped into the chat?
No, you said my name almost immediately. I'm Googling Rodney Jenkins though right
now.
No.
It's not gonna. So let me explain it to you. Right. Lewis was a completely dominant player, but there's one guy, Rodney Jenkins, Alabama.
Oh, okay. Who is your nemesis that you just struggle with no matter what? Yeah, that's
Mike Archer and Frederic.
For Fred,
Talafredo and Steve Morey, if you go back far enough. Does Ryan Moore have a Rodney Jenkins in singles?
Well, see, check this out. That's something that can help every player out there. Because let's say Ryan Moore or Tony Spreedeman, they get on your show. Hey, who's your Rodney Jenkins? They give you the story. What would a smart player do? At least if I put myself in that position.
Go look him up.
I would go watch. And especially, not just against anybody, but especially if that person plays Tony or Ryan, whichever it is, that's where you would learn everything. Because you could go watch Rodney Jenkins tomorrow, and it's not going to tell you how to beat Lewis. But you watch Rodney Jenkins play Lewis, and you're going to be like, what the hell is wrong with Lewis? And you're going to see what he's doing.
Clay, are you familiar with some nemesis that you could speak to? Some great players that just have a hard time in singles versus certain others?
Oh, I grew up in Dallas. You already spoiled the one that I knew with Mike and Fred. I'm trying to think, dude. I know Blake Robertson struggled at least in the one match that I watched. Steve Morey really gave him a hard time.
Murray or Morey?
Steve Morey.
Morey.
Yeah, it was a good a 90-minute 2 out of 3 match.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, is Blake a fast player?
Yes.
Blake is a very fast player.
And Steve Morey is a slow player. There you go.
Yes, absolutely. And speaking of Steve Murray, by the way, here in Dallas, like at the locals, I don't mind flexing that Murray has trouble with me, dude.
Yeah.
Because I'm and I'm a little unorthodox, and also, it's not conventional, and he'll even tell you, at least on the local level here. Yeah, what's up?
You're reminding me of somebody I know, Mark. Can you tell me more about yourself?
Trademark.
No, does Brandon have a nemesis in singles? Moreland?
Brandon Moreland?
Yeah.
No, Brandon doesn't struggle with really anybody, man. He's always in the match. I don't think he's really. I think he's not really susceptible to that. Not that I know of, at least. I'd definitely ask him next time I see him. But no, he doesn't. Neither does Tony either. By the way, I don't think Tony really has that. And I don't know.
Ryan struggled. Ryan was up and down with Tony till he beat him in singles this year, right?
Man, they've been back. Here's the thing. This is all you need to know about Ryan versus Tony. Is if Ryan does not care, it's gonna be fun to watch, and Tony's gonna win. But if Ryan actually gives, that's why I always kind of make the joke about the gas factor. Does Ryan actually give a shit? And if the gas factor is up there, then they're pretty much 50-50 over the last several years. I mean, it's Tony won 5 in a row, but I don't know how many of those, and especially at non-worlds tournaments, Ryan is there to have fun and to put on a show, and it's fun to watch. And he still, by the way, just kills everybody, even when he's not trying. But he doesn't always, his motivation is different than Tony's. Tony is business. He's always there to win. He's not ever going to goof around until the tournament's over. And Ryan doesn't always care, So he wants to have fun. He's there to let loose. He's not paying the bills with foosball. So
who's your Rodney Jenkins?
Mine?
Yeah.
Oh, good grief. I don't know, man. I mean, there's local people that because I'm still new enough, I haven't hit a level to where I can say that there's only a few people that I just really always have trouble with.
Your Rodney Jenkins should be on tour. That should be at big tournaments, not local.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can say that's what I'm struggling to think. Okay, I don't know. I don't want to say. All right. I'll just say it. There's somebody that I've never been able to beat, and I've just absolutely frog stomped people who have no trouble with him. So this probably falls into the Rodney Jenkins category.
That's perfect.
Is Hani Najjar, Al.
Oh dude, that guy's a problem.
Yeah.
Al from California.
Yeah. He's good.
Dude,
he's good.
He's not good enough to beat me the way that he beats me. And I just can't even. I'm not even in the match against that dude, man. He just absolutely kicks the shit out of me every time I play him.
For the right price, I will tell you how to beat him easily.
All right, well, name the price right now.
Is it going to be on the? Is it going to be on the 5-bar? You have something on his 5-bar, don't you, Lou? His little off the wall shit.
Dude, I got something on his entire game. So
it's in my
every
head.
rod.
The problem is he ain't the problem. It's my head is the problem.
Yes, that's the problem with all Rodney Jenkins. It's always between the ears.
It's not it's the whole match, and this is no disrespect to him because, like you said, he's a really good player. So I'm not like
he's good
claiming. But here's the thing: I'm sitting there the whole time. And this is a psychological problem for me. I'm sitting there the whole time going, how the hell am I not winning this match? He doesn't even deserve to be pulling points. And here I am struggling to stay alive.
There's no shame in that. There's no shame in that. Everybody
that is the Rodney
one.
Jenkins for me. Yeah. I've never admitted that publicly. And by the way, Tom, if you could delete this episode as soon as
sure.
No, see, that's what makes it better. It's hard to say that person. Like for me, it's hard to tell people Rodney Jenkins, but that's what makes it perfect.
I feel a weight has been lifted off my shoulders tonight. I'm glad I peeked my head in here.
See, this is why you do this. No, Clay, I'm glad you joined us because I wanted to mention to our audience, FoosTalk Live, that Shooting the Shot is back on Tuesday, and I got a chance to preview it. And I have to say, I haven't laughed that hard in quite a long time.
By the way, I'm crossing my fingers for you to say the title of this wrong one of these days. But so far, you've still said
shooting the
shot every time. So. But I can.
Who's the guest?
So
who's the guest on Shooting the Shot?
Midori Kimura and.
Let me say it the way Midori Kimura. That's the way that she said it at one point in the episode. Midori Kimura.
She actually interviews Clay and it gets some very interesting information, such as a particular artist you happen to be into that I was shocked to hear this, but can I say? Can I tell?
You go ahead. Yeah.
So it turns out that Clay is into Taylor Swift.
Oh, you're a Swiftie.
I've actually considered legally changing my name to Clayler Swift.
Oh,
it's been
Clayler.
And
we'll see. I don't know. I'm still on the fence about that.
You've been terribly abused because of your taste in music, and you don't. You even used a lyric from one of her songs to defend yourself. I was like, what?
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is, I just don't, I think what I said, well, I won't spoil it, but yeah, I actually delivered in a 5-minute conversation about Taylor Swift. I think I used lines from 3 or 4 different songs.
Yes.
Just kind of slid them in there.
God, that's funny.
Yeah. I have no shame, dude. Hey, if you like something, who cares? Like if you're like a grown adult going to Gordon Ramsay's restaurant and you order a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, dude, who cares?
Taylor Swift? Because
Taylor Swift.
Midori said something like, is it because she wears nice cardigans? Is that why?
Yeah. I don't know anything about Taylor Swift as far as what kind of clothes that she wears.
Right.
I barely even know what she looks like, but I don't know, man.
I find that hard to believe.
I said I barely know what she looks like. I couldn't tell you what kind of clothes she wears. I know what her face looks like because I have her CDs.
Her collage posters on your wall probably.
Yeah, I don't. But I have in my Trapper Keeper. I have pictures of Taylor Swift. No, but I don't I don't like follow her social media. I don't care anything about any of that stuff. I just her music is like catchy, And it's no different than
I knew I could get this out of you. You're defending yourself and doing it well. I love it.
There's no defense. It's not defensive at all. I'm just explaining it because some people are so small-minded that they have trouble understanding the fact that you can just like macaroni and cheese just because you like the way it tastes.
There you go.
Doesn't mean you're like
Okay.
Dude, I'm not judging you.
Oh, shut up. You were judging me. You were in the room judging me. By the way, can we mute Mark real quick? I think I can actually mute him in the server. He the way that he's laughing right now, you'll hear this on the podcast. It's the only time the whole weekend. All right. I recorded about a dozen of these interviews at Worlds. And this was the only time that I let somebody else in the room. And it's the last time because this asshole, he shit on me the whole time. It's like he's so
great,
happy.
dude. It was so good. It was
He's
so good.
happy.
Well,
Damn, it was good.
You have to
That
hear
just
it,
means he
though.
likes you.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. That's what it
Pretty
means.
much,
I'm fond of you.
And I don't worry my pretty little mind because people throw rocks at things that shine.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
That's so good, dude.
Man,
I
it's a
love it.
philosophy you can take to the foosball table right there.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Wow. Dig it.
If
So
something makes you happy, you know what, dude? Just do it.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. Come on, seriously, it's my life
If you're
mantra.
not hurting anybody
So
else.
okay,
you
let's
know.
go around the room. So Louis, what's your guilty pleasure when it comes to music? What would we be shocked that you listen to?
There is none. I'm not. I mean, I like certain songs. Couldn't tell you the name of them. Couldn't tell you who sings them.
Okay.
Never cared. No
Gotcha.
movies.
Guilty
No
pleasure.
music.
Well, we already know
Guilty.
that Mark has a guilty pleasure too. He's a karaoke singer, so he'll sing anything cheesy.
Yeah.
I don't like. It's like I like. It's funny. The cheesiest radio hit of a boy band's. I'll cover. Like I covered a New Kids on the Block song.
Hanging
I don't
Tough.
care. No, I did.
Yeah, I know you know that song.
Hey, can you sing "Staying Alive"?
Dude, don't even give me that.
Staying Alive.
I tried to cover.
Oh.
So Louis asked me to cover the hardest song of all time to cover, and that was it. I couldn't
The
cover
Star
it.
Spangled Banner, the national anthem of the United States of America, is the hardest song in terms of vocal range.
I could crush that song. It's not, it was Staying
I don't
Alive.
think so.
Bee Gees in like true, in like without trying to use like a real hard falsetto is very difficult. But that's it, man. My guilty pleasure is '90s boy band radio hits covering.
Ooh.
What about you, man? Tom, what's yours?
My guilty pleasure? Boy, there's a few. I'd have to go back to my early days in the 70s and 80s of AM radio.
It's going to be a song that nobody knows. He's avoiding embarrassment by going back before most of us were born.
It's maybe there's just too many to choose.
Here, let me tell you right now. When we were in Kentucky at Worlds, I'm pretty sure I heard Tom humming "Party in the USA" by Miley Cyrus.
Oh, that's
and
right.
I'm just gonna say.
Say what?
Yes.
Say what? No, who's Miley Cyrus?
Tom's back there.
I'm sorry, but you're just wrong.
You just said nodding the shit like yeah. That's not real. Nodding the shit.
Oh,
yep, that's Tom Robinson, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh man.
Oh,
Okay.
man.
I don't know. John
All right,
Mellencamp.
so who was it? Who was it? Tom?
John Mellencamp. How about that? You like that?
That's good.
Well,
yeah, he's good.
That's like saying, what is your guilty pleasure movie from the 80s? Oh, I don't know, man. Smokey and the Bandit. And it's pretty. It's like the coolest movie there was.
I know. Yeah.
Please, I had an appetite when I got here. No, it's no. There was a couple of really trashy movies back in the day. Although I have to say, more contemporary movies. My guilty pleasure there is The Big Lebowski. Got to watch. I mean, I've watched it like 50 times.
That's a guilty pleasure.
Yeah,
you're not going to get along, dude.
It's like a cult classic, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Tom. It's amazing. It's
a guilty pleasure.
Yeah, I can give you.
He's high. We'll figure it out. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm next time we get the chance to hang out, Tom. I'm gonna just hum some random songs like Miley Cyrus or Selena Gomez or Justin Bieber or something like that.
Whoever that is.
If yeah, exactly. You say that, you pretend now. But if you can still be humming these songs, like if you've never heard them, it won't work. But if you've heard them and you're humming them like the next day, like where the hell did I get this song stuck in my head? I'm gonna be like, we've got ourselves a believer.
Yeah,
we got ourselves a believer.
We'll see.
Hey guys, I got one last question for Lou, and then I'm gonna drop Lou. I got this question, and it was a raging thing that I had a thing where I was listing top 10 pull shots, and I pushed Dave Govinson out of my top 10, and then I regretted it later. Where do you put Dave Govinson's pull shot in top pull shots of all time?
You want to give me like a list, and I'll tell you where I would place him in that list? That would be easier.
Lafredo, Johnny Horton, Steve Murray.
Okay, stop right there.
Yeah.
You just name the names, and I'll tell you who I think he's above. I put him above Steve Murray.
Ooh.
You put him above Murray? Well, then he's already going to be in your top 10 because you start. Well, I mean, you just look at pull shots. Look at Tracy McMillan, Adrian Zamora. I don't know. Think about all the guys that have won with their pull shot.
Well, I don't put Dave's top.
Jim Wiswell.
Well, I never saw him play.
Yeah,
but
Steve Biney.
How about I just explain Dave's pull shot?
Go ahead, do that.
From my point of view, great pull shot, one of the best straights, if not the best straight in the world. Incredible middle, struggles on the long. If he could time along and hit it with consistency like Todd did, not Todd's style, but to be able to do what Todd did, the way Todd would pick the hole, if he had that long, then he probably could have had the best pull shot of all time. Because his middle was one of the best middles in the world. His straight, one of the best, whereas Todd was, god of the long and then go straight if needed and only go middle if somebody was stupid enough to park on both corners. Steve Murray I take out of it because, and I have all the respect for Steve as well, we've had battles, but he kind of had some tells on his pull, which makes it harder to judge his pull because when you know something's coming, it's harder to actually rate that pull. And he struggled on his long as well, in my opinion.
For sure. He's a lefty, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I got that.
So
whose
to a
pull was
newer
hardest?
player,
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask to a newer player, like the rollover being predominant probably nowadays in terms of what people shoot, who hear, like just hearing you say, like, he had a really good middle. Like, how hard was it to have a good middle as a pull shooter?
Well, if you
like, what made his better than somebody else's? I guess
because he tucked it a little too, and he was very good at picking it. Whereas a lot of players that if they mastered the long, like a Todd, let's say, it wasn't as easy for them to hit those really tight splits. A lot of people that hit the really tight splits, it was because they couldn't master the long as well. So I believe that might be part of Dave's struggles is he made his middle so good because he couldn't either hit the long as good or he couldn't time it as good or he couldn't see it as good, but there was some weakness there that made, because I always go by Todd's theory. I asked Todd, it was I think in the late 80s, and two players, the only two players I can remember going to for advice, one was Dave and one was Todd. Todd, I asked him something about the pull and he said something about he didn't use these words, but master the long, master the straight. If they block that, think about how big the middle is.
Yeah.
Whereas Dave's thinking is reverse theory. I mean, he never told me this, but this is, if you watch him, he prefers to go middle or straight every time compared to the long. Maybe because of the effort it takes. Now, I do know he had a messed up rotator cuff that could have affected it. So maybe things were different before my time. But, you can name names if you want. I'll tell you if I thought Dave's was better or not. I'm pretty open about it.
Well, how about this? Whose pull shot was hardest for you to block? And whose rollover was hardest for you to block, for that matter?
Yeah, rollover, I can't really say. I never struggle with anybody's rollover.
They're all too damn easy.
But Todd's pull. Like, I remember when I was younger, young people, they want to prove themselves, take on all the challenges. Every single player that I can remember that at least stepped up to the challenge, I could put the 2-bar a half a finger off the long, and I could put the goalie guy behind it, and I could race him.
Yeah, I know. I was there. I've seen you do this.
Todd. Couldn't touch Todd. Todd is like, and he said something about most players react to the sound. They're not even reacting to the movement. So to have that speed, and he knew how to time, which a lot of players don't know how to time. You put that together, Todd had the most devastating pull shot I've ever seen. And that's when he was actually old in the 90s, and he was still crushing that thing. So I don't know what it's like now. I haven't seen him. But just think about when he was younger.
Still looks pretty good.
Yeah.
No, he was probably peaking. His pull shot was probably peaking in like 92. People don't even know. Man, remember that's when he was winning his open doubles at Ford. Scotty Weidman.
With a weak 5.
Yeah, his 5-bar was always very, very questionable. All his passes looked different.
Well,
but he could get a weird wall pass in the runner on you.
But why was his 5 weak? His 5 was weak because the shot was so good. Just look at all the players. You got the exceptions, but the guys who had the best 5s usually had a weaker 3. The guys who had the best 3s had a weaker 5. They had to make up for one area or the other.
Wow.
True.
Is that a right brain, left brain thing, or is that just the way it falls?
Honestly, I think there's some compensation that happens. Yeah, that's it. I think there's some compensation that happens. So it's a funny kind of thing, right? The guys that, let me give you an example, like Gary Edgeworth. He's a big dude. He was a pitcher, and he had a monster pull shot. He's another left-handed guy, but his pull shot was a monster. Well, it was such a monster, he focused on it more. And he was a left-handed guy. His 5-bar was good, but his 3-bar was always better than his 5-bar, and his 5-bar was pretty good. It's just where you focus. Very few guys focus on both sides of their game with equity, but those guys end up being the greatest players. The guys that focus on both sides. Todd is an anomaly because his 5-bar was moderate. I mean, I don't want to be too disparaging. It's good. He's got good passes, but there's so many 5-bars that are better than his. His 3-bar was just unreal. And then,
if he got the ball, it was gone usually. And I never knew Gary. Gary is a good friend of mine. I didn't know he was left-handed. You'd never look at his pull shot and say that dude's left-handed.
No, he's a monster, like a monster pull shot. He's a lefty. Kind of funny that you speak to Todd. We always get around to Todd's greatness at some point every single week somehow. But the dude's pull shot was probably peaking in 92 or 93. And here we are 30 years later, and he's still beating people with good players, getting to 5th in open doubles, getting up there in singles. His pull shot is 30 years past its prime. That's how wicked that thing is.
I have a question about that, though. Are you sure that's when it was peaking? Because you and I didn't know him. He started winning in the 70s.
I know. I think I'm calling it a pecan tornado because that's the last time he won open doubles at forward was the early 90s, and he started playing goalie. So it's hard to assess, right? I mean, the guy's won so much international stuff, too. Maybe Clay's as good an archivist on this as anything. When do you think Todd's pull shot was as explosive as it was, Clay? Do you have any? Does the library speak to that at all?
I'm sure the library does. I mean, it's hard for me to say because I wasn't really around for all of it. I've only been around the last decade-ish, so I don't really have a whole lot. Video can only show so much, but
who you asked? You asked Dave, somebody like that played back in the day. Dave.
I did actually, and Dave agrees that. Well, Dave calls it a toss-up between. I think he puts Jim Wiswell either next to or above Todd. And I don't know how much of that is nostalgia. There's some heroism there too, because Jim. It's kind of funny. I think the analogy is I just heard Dwayne Wade talking about who is greatest of all time basketball players. For Dwayne Wade, it's always going to be Michael Jordan because he grew up during the Michael Jordan era, and he's from Chicago, and Michael Jordan was his hero. It'll always be Michael Jordan for him. That's his generation. Even though generations of people now, it'll be LeBron James. I think it's the same for Dave. So he puts Jim Wiswell and Lafredo like 1 and 2 in some order. But, he says the same thing that we say. The long is so good and so lethal that you got to park a man out there. And once you have to park a man out there. And once you park a man out there, the rest of the hole is gaping. So what are you going to do?
The other question was not whose was better between Wiswell and him, but to ask Dave, was his pull peaked in 92 or was it better like in the early 80s or something?
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's a good. We should ask Dave that. We should ask Dave that question.
You want me to call him?
I'll send him a
Get
text.
him on the show. Yeah.
Ask him on the show. It'd be better.
How does Ryan Moore's pull shot play into that conversation?
Mm-hmm.
From what I've seen, it's nowhere near what Todd's was. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, let me give credit where credit's due. What Ryan does with the John Wayne is something complete. The slingshot, and Lewis, I'm not sure if you're seeing what they did with the slingshot, how the slingshot's evolved into a truly lethal weapon. So the slingshot, you guys, used to be a novelty shot from the 2-bar. And if you ask around Robbie and Tommy Atkinson, they'll say the first person who invented the slingshot was Terry Moore. And Terry Moore was shooting slingshots from the 2-bar. Well, the slingshot's something completely different now. The slingshot has like 5,000 variations from the 3-bar. And it has all kinds of funky stuff. And Ryan has a great set of options that make his pull shot very dangerous. But I will say this, Ryan's pull shot is no harder and no faster than like someone like Rick Lucas or Rick Lucas or Trace Ehrig. These are, or even like Mark Rudnicki. These are all guys that are like 6'2", 6'3", 6'4". They, like Rick, his pull shot probably most resembled Rick Lucas's pull shot. These hulking dudes who went long no matter what. If you were posted, didn't matter. The difference is, I think that Todd, there's something that Todd and Billy do. Now, Billy's pull shot doesn't deserve to be in the top 10. Doesn't deserve to be in the top 10 because he's never shown he could win with it, and he's never shown he could shoot middles when it mattered and clutch shots. Here's the difference, though, between someone's pull shot like Todd and Billy and some of these other tall guys like Ryan and even Gary Edgeworth. What Todd does and what Billy do is they have a compact stroke where it's the minimal backswing. It is like the most minimal amount of backswing to get maximum compression on the ball. So the lateral speed that Billy and Todd generate is unlike these other guys. And it is absolutely perceptible. If you watch, there's a delay. It's so fast and so hard. Even Ryan hits the ball, it crushes it. We're talking about a different type of lateral speed. It's like a blink and it's gone lateral speed. Lafredo has that, and Billy Pappas has that, and it's different than what Ryan has. Different. I don't know.
I agree with that.
Here's what I would. What would Ryan? What does he lack, Louis? That would put him in the conversation with like Todd and some of those other guys.
Let's just say if it was my personal perspective and I'm playing both players, and because I have, but Todd is the guy that you move just a hair, you blink, it's gone. Ryan, let's put it this way: Todd is the kind of guy that when he hits it, it scares you. At least me, it does. Like as a goalie, if somebody hits something enough to scare me, they're not going to get it again unless they force their will on me and hit it because they're that good. But Ryan's pull shot does not have that. Not saying he couldn't develop it because he's a two-shot guy and his main shot's his rollover. But to me, any player that could do something like that, whether it's a rollover, push kick, whatever it is, that's what Todd had. That if he can make me scared, I shouldn't say you. If he can make me scared of that long, then that's an incredible shot. And he's the only guy that ever did that to me. And, don't forget Biney in that conversation too.
That's another one. Biney, these tall, hulking dudes. And they've been around. Jim Wiswell was one of these dudes. We're talking about big, hulking men that tower over the table. It's like a toy. Biney's another one. Biney can wreck that ball. He hits that thing, crushes it. You should have seen him 30 years ago. Made the ball disappear. Still not in the same class.
What does Biney and Horton and a few of those other guys have in common that Todd and Billy don't? It's what you said, the short backswing, the one motion.
Right. Yeah, that's it. The backswing is shorter.
Ryan too. Ryan's got a bigger, that short stroke.
Well, all of it. So Ryan's 2 bar is the same thing on Ryan's 2 bar. Frankly, dude, that thing is a monster. Ryan's 2 bar is an absolute monster. But guess who? His lateral speed is a lot quicker. It's not even close. Billy's way faster on the lateral speed. Ryan probably hits it as hard or harder, but not much. I think Billy's got the lateral speed and he's got probably equivalent power with a lower backswing. So anyway, it's a technique thing. And some of it may be, and I'll say this too, someone like Shaquille O'Neal. He couldn't shoot free throws. We don't know why. Maybe he's lazy or didn't focus on them. Some say his hands are too big, his wrists locked up, whatever. But there's limitations. Maybe Ryan is just too big to have that kind of compact swing. Maybe these big guys can't really get that, or they would have it. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into things too much.
People like Dirk kind of blow out the idea that you can't shoot a free throw because your hand is too big. I think it's just a lack of athleticism, and Shaquille O'Neal is athletic in a different way. The same way that Barry Sanders was athletic and how he ran the ball, or like freaking the Christian Okoye was athletic and how he just bowled you over. Like there's different styles of athleticism.
Sure.
So
that might be it.
Yeah.
That might be
it. There was only one 2-row that I was ever scared of the way I was of Todd's pull shot, and that was Billy.
Yeah. Billy's 2 are and don't like
not when I was in front. If I was up front, I wasn't scared of his 2. But when I was playing goalie in doubles against his 2-row, it's the only one I was scared of. I had to actually tell Trevor how to change his defense so we wouldn't get scored on.
Yeah.
Is that like just a change in the zone? Is that what happens when you have to do that?
Well, when I was up front, I could kind of like bait him into what I wanted, so it wasn't there. But when I remember playing goalie for Trevor, he's the guy. There's the only guy I can even remember that he scored, and a couple times I have to ask Trevor where it went, and I never had to ask that ever. So it was that kind of shot. So I had to tell him. I don't remember what it was, but I think I told him just give him sprays.
You know where it went.
So if you give him just a spray, there's no. I mean, you don't give him the other options. That's the only guy I can ever remember having to do that against.
No doubt.
Last week we had Ryan, and so I pretty much told Ryan that what I saw him do against Tony from the 2 bar is a generational performance. And I mean that because I've watched a lot of singles matches, and the last person I saw shoot like that in an open singles worlds was Dave Gummison when he won. We're talking about very rare performances. Someone could do that in a match, and you're like, okay, but for someone to do that in the finals of a match or to get to a match, and what Ryan admitted was he's never shot that well. He's never shot that accurately, those particular holes. A tuck split pull shot and a short pull shot. is a high level of accuracy because if you hit it wrong, Tony's going to spike you.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to score on you. You're going down the middle. But Billy could do that all the time. And Billy, you play goalie wars against Billy. If you're like Louis said, if you're playing goalie wars and your forward is like you're playing goalie wars, Billy could wreck you and you wouldn't know where the ball's going. You don't know where it's going. You're a master.
That's a true story because it happened to us. But watching that finals with Ryan, it wasn't just how good he was hitting the ball. It's his mental. He was picking the right holes, and when they weren't there, he was doing the right thing that made Tony change his defense.
Yeah. Right. It was great. Anyway, we're right up here against you guys.
Yeah.
It got really good after Jim left.
Gotta
so
say,
glad we got rid of Jim.
No, it's great. I mean, if you've been listening for the last 2 hours, I mean, you've been listening to the World Champion Louis Cartwright here on FoosTalk Live. And Louis, man, it's so great when you come on because you shall we say defray Mark's effect, which is great.
Well, if anybody got anything out of today's podcast or whatever you call this thing, I would like to say A is more about Mark, and
you're welcome.
And I hope everybody learned a little bit about Taylor Swift.
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely. That's what I'm talking about. Taylor Swift live right here.
Right on. So
please put Rodney Jenkins into your podcast.
All right.
Yeah, all right.
I wrote it down.
That's
it's
an
right
automatic question.
Who is your Rodney Jenkins? Yes. It's a leading
Mark,
question.
do me a favor.
Yeah.
Just shoot me whoever you have on in that answer because I usually I'm horrible. I don't get on to listen to this, but I would love to hear people's Rodney Jenkins.
All right.
Cool.
We'll make a montage. We'll make a montage of the Rodney Jenkins.
Perfect.
Well, Louis, thank you again for joining us for FoosTalk Live. Let's get together again soon. And here comes 2022. Let's hopefully you can get out there and do some playing with us. It'd be great to see you.
I hope so. Thanks for having me on again. And I do want to point out the only reason I came on today was because Adam Gilson, a good friend of mine, invited me. I'm kind of sad that he wasn't on. If Mark's been texting me, at least once or twice a month trying to get me on, I told him I'm too busy. I did this for Adam. Adam, I wish you were here. And we'll get together again at Trevor's and we'll barbecue like we did last time.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, Clay and Mark, appreciate you jumping in here because it's been a blast. But we'll be back together again very soon. It's FoosTalk Live right here. Thanks for listening in.
Inside Foos
Thanks,
and FoosTalk Live proudly present Shooting the Shot with Clay Toomey. Tuesdays.
We're going. We're rolling.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Midori. I'm here. We're in Lexington because that's where the tournament is. You love Taylor Swift?
I don't mind Taylor Swift.
Where does your love for Taylor Swift come from? Is it like the array of cardigans she wears?
People make fun of me for being a Taylor Swift fan.
I'm not making fun of
I'll
you.
tell
It was
you
just
right
something
now,
that caught me off guard.
I don't worry my pretty little mind because people throw rocks at things that shine. Okay?
Shooting the Shot with Clay Toomey. This Tuesday, featuring Midori Kimura. Find it on Podbean or foosballradio.com. FoosTalk Live is a product of Inside Foos, all rights reserved. Brought to you in part by InsideFoos.com, Protectoflex, Rodlock, 518 Prince, Foosballers the Movie, the USTSO, and Foosball Clubs USA. Tune in again next week for another episode of FoosTalk Live. In the meantime,
we'll see you foozin'.